Chapter 2307. Xiaoya struggled to hold on, complaining incessantly. If one was unlucky, even cold water would get stuck between the gaps of one's teeth. Ever since she came to the colored glaze civilization, nothing good had happened. First, she was captured into the mist forest as prey. Finally, she was rescued by Suyu, only to be captured as a trial target. The cultivation of the two people in front of her was not worth mentioning, but they had an endless supply of doctrine artifact divine embryos and talismans. To her, whose cultivation and domain were both sealed, it caused her considerable pain. What made her feel even more aggrieved and pained was that she would be fine if she only defended herself. If she dared to fight back against the two of them, the three old fellows would definitely deal a heavy blow to her. She had become a living target, suffering unspeakably. Seeing that the unruly woman's attacks were getting heavier, Xiaoya could not take it anymore. She used her strong physique to block the sword strike. The doctrine artifact divine embryo was sent flying by Xiaoya's arm, hitting the woman's face. The woman was caught off guard. Her nose and mouth were bleeding from her own sword, and she squatted on the ground in pain. The three old fellows immediately pounced forward. One of them protected the woman, while the other two kicked Xiaoya away like she was a straw doll. Xiaoya rolled a few times in the air, clutching her abdomen as she groaned in pain on the ground. Her pale forehead was covered with beads of sweat. She looked like she was in extreme pain. "Kill her!" As if she felt that she had lost face, the woman flew into a rage out of humiliation and spoke with a sharp and ear-piercing tone. The two old men were not hesitant, preparing to kill her on the spot. Suyu saw this and shook his head secretly. That unruly woman was as annoying as ever. Swoosh, since Xiaoya was in trouble, he naturally could not stand by and watch. A long sword fox swept out, causing the two old men, who were prepared to kill her, to turn around immediately. Together with the other old man, the three patriarch-level powerhouses acted at the same time, blocking the sword fox outside. "How dare you sneak attack us?" the unruly woman shouted angrily as she looked at the approaching human. Suyu's eyes were indifferent. Without a word, his right arm turned into a dragon claw, and he swung it across the air. Immediately, a power that struck fear into the hearts of the three patriarch-level Dowlords swept over like a powerful whirlwind. The three of them had to work together to dispel this power. Their eyes were filled with shock. The power of a single punch was enough to crush any one of them. If they really fought, the three of them would die within a few rounds. An expert. The human in front of him was definitely a top-notch expert. "Get lost!" Suyu shouted coldly. The unruly woman raised her eyebrows and put her hands on her waist. "How dare you? Do you know who I am? I'm The three old men hurriedly covered her mouth and quickly brought her and the young man away. Even if the woman wasn't aware of Suyu's power, how could they not know? If they really angered the other party, without any reinforcements, they would all die. The group of people fled in panic. Suyu came in front of Xiaoya and removed the seal on her body. As such, Xiaoya immediately used the power of the Tao Lord in her body to heal her injuries, and the pain on her body was alleviated. "My abilities are still too weak." Xiaoya was ashamed. She was too ashamed to look Suyu in the eyes. He was saved by Suyu once again. Suyu stroked his chin and said, "At your level, I can't do anything to you. Isn't it very difficult to increase your abilities?" "Yes, apart from increasing my cultivation, I can only increase the power of the realm." Xiaoya sighed helplessly. Her abilities were considered top-notch in the 7 unique civilizations, but in the colored glaze civilization, she was only considered mediocre. "I might not be able to help you increase your cultivation at the Tao Lord level for now, but I can still help you with the realm." Suyu took out a pot of absolute beginning energy. Seeing this, Xiaoya was shocked. "Primordial Qi? Where did you get it? This is a rare treasure that can only be found by chance. Just use it well." Suyu handed it over. Xie Xiaoye was surprised and delighted, but her emotions were very complicated. After a long silence, she seemed to have made up her mind. She let out a long sigh and said, "I don't know if I can repay you for saving my life twice in this lifetime. In the future, if you want me to do anything for you, just say it. I'm already yours." She said it casually, but the veins on Suyu's forehead throbbed. "Don't say things that will cause misunderstandings." Xie Xiaoye was stunned. Only then did she realize the ambiguity in her word. She said mischievously, "I didn't say anything wrong. I'm serious. I'm already yours. You can do anything for me." As she spoke, she began to take off her clothes. Suyu was both angry and amused. "Don't talk nonsense. Let's return to the imperial city of the Sleepless Empire. Looking at the time, it should be about time for the banquet." After some thought, Suyu took out 2 invitations and handed the old man's invitation to Xie Xiaoye. "Just nice, I have 2. All of a sudden, Suyu realized that the old Taoist priest's invitation card had a holy and pure aura. This aura was exactly the same as the light divine deer's. He had always wondered why the light divine deer chose him out of everyone else, and even took the initiative to impart techniques to him. Looking at the invitation, Suyu had a vague guess in his heart. Could it be that the light divine deer sensed the invitation and mistook Suyu for someone else? "Who is that old man?" Suyu asked doubtfully. The light divine deer had lived for almost half an era. It had existed since the time of the first palace master of the Bright Palace. Its origins had always been a mystery. For the light divine deer to react to the old man's invitation, who could the old man be? "Before we return, let's stop by a place," Suyu said. Several days later, on the snowy peak, Suyu and Xie Xiaoye stood side by side. "What are we doing here? It's desolate and uninhabited." Xie Xiaoye looked around at the empty snowy peak. But Suyu was shocked. "Where's the temple? Where's the old man?" There was nothing on the snowy peak. Even if the temple had been moved, there shouldn't be no traces. But the truth was that there was nothing, not even a speck of dust. From the scene, it didn't look like there had been any traces of a temple being built. For a moment, Suyu wondered if he had come to the wrong place. But there was no mistake. This was where the temple was. Could it all have been a dream? Suyu couldn't help but doubt himself. But the real invitation in his hand and the vivid memory told him that it was not a dream. Why did people die? Suyu recalled the old man's question in his mind. He was inexplicably curious. Who was the old man? With unanswered questions, Suyu returned to the imperial city of the Sleepless Empire. It just so happened that the banquet would begin in a few days. Once the banquet was over, he would focus on finding the time-fixing plate. He had already predicted that the time-fixing plate might not be easy to find. It would be best to strengthen his own cultivation. Suyu immediately decided to go into seclusion to digest the antler of the light divine deer and complete the soul transformation. Go into seclusion with peace of mind. "I'll guard you," Xie Xiaoye said. With her around, Suyu felt much more at ease. After setting up a seal on the spot, he began the soul transformation. First, he mixed the antler and a few other ingredients into a snow-white spiritual liquid. After swallowing it, an incomparably gentle energy entered his body and seeped into his soul continuously. That comfortable feeling made Suyu moan a few times in comfort. 90% of his soul transformation was rapidly transformed under the nourishment of the snow-white spiritual liquid. Golden spots of light expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. 2 days later, his soul shone with a golden radiance. Suyu also had a feeling that his soul was expanding. His soul had reached the limit of soul transformation and was about to complete the final transformation into a soul transformation. With a thought, he was about to transform his soul into soul transformation. Suddenly, the green stone slab in his arms spun out without warning and got stuck in his soul, preventing it from transforming into soul transformation. A wisp of vast, empty, and mighty voice reverberated in his mind. The sixth stage of the heavens sun gazing at air will only be said once. Listen carefully. Su Yu's heart trembled violently. Ever since he had cultivated to the fifth stage, the cultivation technique for the sixth stage had never appeared on the green stone slab. It had been replaced by the Taishu Xian palace inside. After such a long time, Su Yu had already given up hope for the sixth stage. Who knew it would suddenly appear? Moreover, it was personally taught by the Taishu Xian master, who had not shown himself for a long time. The sixth stage is taught orally. The technique is as follows. No wonder the green stone slab did not appear. The sixth stage was taught orally and not verbally. Su Yu's mind was unprecedentedly focused as he memorized the sixth stage technique without missing a word. An hour later, his eyes shone brightly. This was the sixth stage of the heavens sun gazing at air, the undying soul realm. Upon reaching this realm, one's soul would be indestructible and comparable to a soul artifact. Not only was it extremely strong in defense, but it could also be used as a weapon to destroy the enemy. If the enemy's soul was not strong enough, wouldn't Su Yu have the upper hand if he fought with his soul? However, this realm was divided into upper, middle, and lower stages. A large number of souls were needed to successfully cultivate each stage. The reason this technique appeared at this moment was that his soul had finally reached the edge of soul transformation, barely reaching the level of cultivating the undying soul realm. A large number of souls? Su Yu's heart stirred as he entered the soul dimension. The number of souls he had imprisoned was not small. There were divine warriors of heaven and earth, half-step pathmasters, human demons, and even the second clone of Prince Xiaoyao. There were nearly 100 of them. The sum of their souls was probably more than the monarch of the sleepless empire and the great palace master of the Palace of Light. Let's give it a try and see which stage I can reach, Su Yu said to himself as he closed his eyes and started to operate the heavens sun gazing at air technique. At the beginning, Su Yu took out the soul of a divine warrior of heaven and earth and crushed it. The soul turned into a fluorescent soul, which began to surround Su Yu's soul along the route of the heavens sun gazing at air technique. Too little. Su Yu clearly felt the process was sluggish, which meant that the soul energy absorbed was too little. Then, he crushed the souls of 10 divine warriors of heaven and earth in a row before he managed to operate the technique. However, after a small cycle of the technique, he felt sluggish again. Su Yu did not dare to stop. He crushed the souls of 30 half-step path masters and operated the technique again. Just like that, he continued to pour in higher-level souls to ensure that the technique continued to operate. Many souls in the soul dimension felt threatened and started to struggle. Among them, the soul of the second clone of Prince Xiaoyao struggled the most violently. He roared ferociously and attacked the soul dimension with a portion of his strength. The outline of a small person could be seen protruding between Su Yu's eyebrows, as if it was about to come out. Chapter 2308. Su Yu, if you dare to touch me, I will make you beg for death. Xiaoyao, son of heaven's soul, roared. The roar pierced through the soul space and reached deep into Su Yu's soul. His soul, which was about to be transformed, trembled continuously as if it was about to collapse. Even after being suppressed for so long, Xiaoyao, son of heaven's soul, was still powerful. Back then, Su Yu had only managed to suppress him with the state of the holy mortal body. Now, he might not be able to do anything to him. No matter how he struggled, Su Yu kept his mind and methodically crushed the souls in the soul space so that the heavens sun gazing at air could proceed smoothly. Time passed by slowly. 3 days later, the heavens sun gazing at air had been circulated 4 times in his body. However, there were not many souls left in the soul space. Only 2 or 3 path master souls, the human demon, and Xiaoyao, son of heaven's soul, were left. 9 great circulations to complete 1 circulation. I have absorbed so much soul power, but I haven't even reached half of it. Suyu was amazed. At first, he thought he could break through to the middle stage of the undead soul realm. Now, it seemed that even the lower stages might not succeed. If he failed, all his previous efforts would be in vain. He would have to wait a long time to find more souls. Clenching his teeth, Suyu crushed the souls of several path masters and used their souls to circulate. However, the circulation became more and more difficult. Their soul power had only circulated for half a cycle. Seeing that the circulation was about to stop, Suyu had no choice but to crush the human demon's soul. The human demon's soul power was quite strong, comparable to the souls of several path masters. He immediately started the circulation again and continued to circulate for half a cycle. Now, only Xiaoyao Son of Heaven's soul was left in the soul space. The circulation had only gone through 5 cycles, and there were still 4 weeks left. He could only attack Xiaoyao Son of Heaven's soul. Suyu mobilized the soul space and tried to crush Xiaoyao Son of Heaven's soul. Unexpectedly, his soul was as hard as iron. No matter how he mobilized the soul space, his soul was not damaged at all. On the contrary, as he struggled, his soul space was slightly damaged. Holy mortal body, it's still too early for you to kill me. Unless you activate the state of the holy mortal body, otherwise, humph. Xiaoyao Son of Heaven sneered. Suyu's eyes became gloomy. He saw that the movement of the technique was getting slower and slower, and it was about to stop completely. Suddenly, Emperor Xiaoyao let out a shrill cry. A great number of white eyes appeared all over his body, and his entire soul melted into pieces at an extremely fast speed. What did you do? Stop it now. Xiaoyao Son of Heaven's soul roared in fear. Suyu was stunned. He had not done anything. Heaven's Son gazing at air. This is the divine technique of the Taishu Master. That's impossible. The Taishu Master died a long time ago. Suyu's heart shuddered. It was the Taishu Master. It was also the Heaven's Son gazing at air technique, but the Taishu Master was using it himself. Its power was too terrifying. Emperor Xiaoyao's soul, which he couldn't do anything to, was directly melted by the Taishu Master. This was especially true when the Taishu Master was only a remnant soul, yet he still possessed such terrifying power. It was hard to imagine just how powerful the Taishu Master was at his peak in the last era. Perhaps he would be on the same level as the human ancestor. No. I don't want to die yet. I have cultivated for more than 10 million years, and I will soon be able to get rid of my main body. I don't want to die yet. Xiaoyao Son of Heaven's soul let out an extremely unwilling roar. However, what awaited him was disintegration. After a moment, his form completely collapsed, and he became an endless soul fluorescence. Hurry up! The voice of the Taishu Master came from the darkness. Suyu's heart shook and he said gratefully, "Thank you, Taishu Master, for your help." He immediately focused his mind and integrated the soul strength of Xiaoyao Sun into the route of cultivation. Suddenly, the speed of cultivation increased by several times. A swelling feeling that was about to overflow filled his soul. What a dense soul strength! It's almost the same as the previous 100 souls. Suyu exclaimed inwardly. This was only the second clone of Xiaoyao Son of Heaven. If it was the first clone, wouldn't it be even stronger? How powerful would his main body be? Thinking of this, Suyu suddenly felt a sense of crisis. He closed his eyes tightly and tried his best to break through. 2 days later, all the souls had been exhausted, and Suyu had only completed 9 great circulations. His undead soul realm had reached the lower level. Suyu's heart skipped a beat, and his soul left his body. He looked at his body, and they were exactly the same. There was no way to tell which was the soul body and which was the real body. Then, Suyu tried punching out. The hundreds of snowy mountains in the direction of his fist were all smashed into pieces. The toughness of his soul was unimaginable. It had already surpassed the Pathmasters, and was close to the level of Xia Yan. Su Yu's body and soul were completely synchronized. When his soul returned to his body, Su Yu's eyes were filled with excitement. His soul body would definitely be of great use. After finishing his training, he calculated the time. The banquet should be held tonight. Su Yu came out of isolation, and after a brief discussion with Xie Xiaoye, he disguised himself and went to the banquet venue marked on the invitation. When he arrived, Su Yu and Xie Xiaoye were a little surprised. The banquet was held in Princess Qian Yu's mansion. Su Yu had heard of Princess Qian Yu's name. It was said that the monarch of the Sleepless Empire had 2 sons, a boy and a girl. Prince Lingtian was quite talented, and he was also quick-witted and calm. He was a good candidate to inherit the throne. But the monarch liked Princess Qian Yu the most. It was rumored that the princess was not talented, and her personality was quite bad. She was unruly, willful, and did whatever she wanted, but the monarch doted on her very much. This banquet involved the 8-star civilization conference, and such an important banquet was held in Princess Qian Yu's mansion. It was obvious that the monarch doted on her to the extreme. This Princess Qian Yu is very lucky, Xie Xiaoye sighed. Su Yu shrugged. I think it's a curse, not a blessing. Why do you think so? With a near-perfect monarch brother in front of her, this princess who is under the protection of the monarch may be able to get whatever she wants now. But if the monarch dies one day, I'm afraid she won't be able to live for long. Xie Xiaoye agreed. Strength is king, after all. She is too weak and will be eliminated sooner or later. This is the general trend. Nodding, Su Yu stepped forward, took out the invitation, and handed it to the banquet gatekeeper for inspection. The slight difference was that when Xie Xiaoye took out the invitation, the gatekeeper's expression was relatively calm. But when he saw Su Yu's golden invitation, his expression was obviously more respectful, and he even nodded at Su Yu in greeting. That blue-robed middle-aged man is indeed extraordinary, Su Yu thought to himself. After the inspection, an old man looked at the disguises of the 2 of them and said with a gentle smile, Esteemed guests, disguises are prohibited at this banquet. Please go ahead and disguise yourselves. Su Yu frowned slightly. He was fine. He had never committed a crime in the Sleepless Empire, so there shouldn't be any problems. But Xie Xiaoye had been exposed by the golden-eyed Langjun and was now wanted by the Sleepless Empire. Wouldn't it be troublesome to appear in public at such an important occasion? Su Yu secretly transmitted his voice to her. Don't accommodate yourself. This banquet should be mainly for discussion. I'll pass on the contents of the banquet to you afterward. But Xie Xiaoye looked at Su Yu mysteriously. What if I want to go? All right. Xie Xiaoye said to the examiner without hesitation. Then, she took off the mask on her face, revealing the delicate and young face of a young girl. Her brows were like distant mountains, her eyes were as bright as the moon, her nose was fine, her lips were cherry, and her teeth were as white as snow. Her beautiful silhouette drew a stunning arc in the air. At first glance, Su Yu couldn't help but be stunned. In the past, Xie Xiaoye could only be described as beautiful, but she looked like she was nearing her 30s and lacked the youthfulness of a young girl. In front of him, however, was the appearance of a young and beautiful girl. And she was indeed beautiful, even more so than by Yun Hongxian and Xue Mengfiu. Su Yu was stunned for a moment before coming back to his senses. He secretly scolded, I'm afraid your disguise can't fool their careful inspection. No matter how good a disguise was, it was maintained by cultivation techniques or treasures. If no one examined it carefully, it might be difficult to see through it. But if they were careful, there would always be traces to follow. However, what puzzled Su Yu was that after the guards checked, they nodded and said, Remove the disguise. You are allowed to enter. How could this work? Xie Xiaoye had hidden her skills after all. She was even very proficient in disguise techniques. Shaking his head in amusement, Su Yu accepted the inspection of the elders and was easily allowed to enter. The two of them entered. One was as handsome as a fairy, and the other was shockingly beautiful. Entering side by side naturally attracted a lot of attention. 81 tables were arranged in the banquet hall. Each table could seat 2 people. The tables in the middle and at the front were basically occupied by the people who had arrived earlier. Only a few tables in the corners were unoccupied. "Fairy, why don't you sit with me?" A rather handsome young man walked over with a smile. Xie Xiaoya shook her head lightly, then quietly linked her arm with Su Yu's, indicating that she was Su Yu's partner and should not disturb him. The handsome man glanced sideways at Su Yu. After sizing him up, he shook his head slightly and sighed. "What a waste of a beautiful flower!" When he finished speaking, he returned to his seat. Several young men and women beside him, who were watching the show, burst into laughter. "Does Mr. Yao Yu also have times when the horse stumbles? Haha, I told you that the two of them have an unusual relationship, but you didn't believe me. How embarrassing! I think it's because that man is too handsome. He's overshadowing our Mr. Yao Yu's brilliance." The young man named Mr. Yao Yu sneered. "How can he overshadow me? In this world, power is everything. How can a half-step path master like him be compared to me? That girl is still young and inexperienced. When she understands the cruelty of the world, she will know how wrong her choice was." The crowd roared with laughter again. They were a group of young men and women, and they were one of the few young people present. Even though they were chatting and laughing in such a solemn occasion, the middle-aged and elderly people around them all looked at them with tolerant eyes and smiles. They didn't seem to be complaining at all. Chapter 2309. Come, let's pick a quiet corner. Xie Xiaoya pulled Su Yu to the most remote table in the lower right corner. Su Yu pulled his hand away as if nothing had happened. "Don't look for me for such things in the future. I'll be looked down upon for no reason." It was all thanks to Xie Xiaoya that he had been looked down upon like cow dung by Mr. Yao Yu. Hee, how nice it feels to be clung to by a beauty. Look at how many people are looking at you with envy and jealousy. Xie Xiaoya rested her chin on her hands, her bright eyes smiling into a pair of crescent moons. "I'd rather no one look at me," Su Yu said lightly. As he spoke, Su Yu suddenly felt a pair of eyes staring at him. He turned his head to look, and his heart skipped a beat. At the entrance of the banquet, a man and a woman stood side by side. The man was Prince Lingtian of the Sleepless Empire. He was elegant and charming. He glanced around with a smile, not looking at Su Yu. But the veiled woman in the snow-white robe next to him was staring at Su Yu with a pair of sharp and deep eyes. "Heartless Iron Hunter!" Su Yu cursed inwardly. The West region was too small. How could he run into the Heartless Iron Hunter? However, there was no surprise in the Heartless Iron Hunter's eyes, as if she had already known that Su Yu had come to the colored glaze civilization. "Heartless Iron Hunter, let's have a seat at the top." There was an empty spot at the table at the very front, reserved for Prince Lingtian. "No, Prince Lingtian, please make yourself at home," the Heartless Iron Hunter said calmly. She walked over to the table beside Su Yu and sat down. She did not say a word, her eyes looking straight ahead. She had no intention of talking to Su Yu. Su Yu touched his nose guiltily. Out of everyone present, the Heartless Iron Hunter should be the only one who knew that Su Yu was from the Pirate Alliance. If she exposed him in front of everyone, Su Yu would probably end up the same way as Xie Xiaoya. "Oh, the old lover you let go is here. Be careful," Xie Xiaoya, who had completely changed her appearance and was not afraid of being recognized, said gloatingly. She had always wondered how the Heartless Iron Hunter had escaped. After thinking about it several times, she concluded that Su Yu must have done it on purpose. He wasn't a lecherous person, but he had purposely revealed an impatient and perverted appearance to the Heartless Iron Hunter. Most likely, he wanted to use this opportunity to release her. Su Yu rolled his eyes at her. "Old lover? Nothing had happened between them. However, Su Yu was indeed a little confused about Heartless Iron Constable's intentions. Heartless Iron Constable sat beside him without saying a word and did not expose him. What was she trying to do? Prince Ling Tian was slightly astonished. Why would the Heartless Iron Constable run to such a remote corner? Looking at Su Yu, Prince Ling Tian was confused. Do they know each other? After checking Su Yu's cultivation again, Prince Ling Tian secretly shook his head. With a smile on his face, he gave up his seat in the front row and sat beside the Wuxin Iron Constable, patiently and warmly conversing with him. The Heartless Iron Constable sometimes answered, sometimes did not, appearing to lack interest. However, his gaze would occasionally drift towards Su Yu, and his eyes were filled with curiosity and contemplation. Prince Ling Tian couldn't help but feel surprised when he noticed this scene. Does the Heartless Iron Constable really know that human who's a half-step Dowlord? That was impossible, right? What kind of existence was the Heartless Iron Hunter? The people he befriended were at least lords of 7-star civilizations, right? There shouldn't have been any interaction between her and this human. The princess has arrived. At this moment the doorman shouted. Hearing this, a trace of imperceptible disgust flashed in the depths of Prince Ling Tian's eyes. How arrogant! As a prince, he didn't even have a doorman to greet him when he came from afar. Princess Qianyue had arrived so late in her own mansion, and she even ordered someone to greet her. As a prince of the Sleepless Empire, Prince Ling Tian was very tired. He didn't understand why his father, the emperor, favored this useless sister of his, despite all his hard work. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Princess Qianyue appeared, dressed in luxurious clothes, under the guidance of several maids. Su Yu and Xie Xiaoye were also very curious about this famous Princess Qianyue, so they cast curious glances at her. Unexpectedly, both of them were stunned by what they saw. Wasn't that the unruly woman who had taken Xie Xiaoye as a trial target at the border? Moreover, when Su Yu had first entered the Sleepless Empire, he had met her once. She's Princess Qianyue? Su Yu and Xie Xiaoye exclaimed in unison. Although their voices were low, it still attracted the attention of the Heartless Iron Constable. She glanced sideways and said calmly, "So you know the princess. Do you need me to call her over to introduce you?" Su Yu hurriedly waved his hands. He couldn't wait to hide. How would he dare to meet her face to face? With Princess Qianyue's stubbornness, she would probably lock Su Yu up on the spot. Unfortunately, things didn't go according to plan. After Princess Qianyue arrived, she first looked at Prince Ling Tian's seat, but it was empty. She was very disappointed. It was the maid beside her who transmitted a message to her, pointing out that Prince Ling Tian was in the corner. Princess Qianyue looked over and her eyes lit up. Her face was filled with joy, and she flew over with a smile. She said delicately, "Brother?" Prince Ling Tian had mixed feelings. He was both envious and jealous of Princess Qianyue, but he couldn't bring himself to hate her. This was because Princess Qianyue was very attached to her brother. Every time her father rewarded her with something good, she would share it with him. "You're here," Prince Ling Tian said helplessly. Princess Qianyue said, "Why are you sitting here, brother? Isn't there a special seat for you in front?" "This place is enough," Prince Ling Tian said. Princess Qianyue looked at the Heartless Iron Constable who was sitting with Prince Ling Tian, and she raised her eyebrows without hiding her disgust. Ever since the Heartless Iron Constable had arrived at the Sleepless Empire, Prince Ling Tian had been accompanying this woman all day. It was said that they even trained together, and their relationship was very close. What annoyed Princess Qianyue the most was that it was said that her brother was very kind to her, but that woman was very cold and had never taken the initiative to do anything to her brother. This made Princess Qianyue very upset, and she felt a sense of loss as if her brother had been snatched away. Seeing that Prince Ling Tian had once again given up his special seat to accompany this woman in this corner, she was filled with jealousy. "You, move aside, I want to sit here." Princess Qianyue pointed at the heartless iron constable, ordering her to move aside. The heartless iron constable stood up without a word, but she did not go far. Instead, she sat down close to Su Yu and said calmly, "Squeeze." A table for two, but 3 people were squeezed into it. Xie Xiaoye was immediately displeased. This heartless iron constable was too full of herself. However, in front of Princess Qianyue, she did not dare make any noise. She could only move to the side to make some space. Su Yu lowered his head and moved to the side, thinking about the heartless iron constable's cunning. She must have seen that Su Yu and Princess Qianyue did not get along, and was certain that he would not dare make any noise. What else could Su Yu do other than quietly move aside? Just like that, the 3 of them squeezed in. But Princess Qianyue was very displeased. Her original intention was for the heartless iron constable to stay away from her brother, but she had actually squeezed into a neighboring seat. She did not dare vent her anger on someone like the heartless iron constable, so she could only vent it on Su Yu and Xie Xiaoye. "Do you two have any guts?" Giving way without a word. As she spoke, Princess Qianyue suddenly stared at Su Yu, feeling that he looked very familiar. "You raise your head," Princess Qianyue ordered. Su Yu cursed his bad luck. He had thought that he could avoid this, but it looked like he could not. Now that things had come to this, Su Yu could only raise his head and reveal his face. "It really is you!" Princess Qianyue screamed, her face furious. At the border, after she had been chased away by Su Yu, she had been filled with anger. She was a dignified princess, and she could get whatever she wanted. But what about that silver-haired human? A few months ago, he had left her in danger, and now he was rudely interfering with her training. How could she take this lying down? After that, she had ordered people to investigate, but found that there was very little information about Su Yu, and it was very difficult to find him. She had never dreamed that Su Yu, whom she could not find no matter how hard she tried, would appear at the banquet held by her own mansion. Su Yu smiled sheepishly. "Oh, Princess, it has been a long time." Princess Qianyue was so angry that she laughed. "Men, arrest him." As expected, the stubborn princess immediately ordered people to arrest him when she found him. Prince Lingtian frowned slightly and stopped her. "Sister, please wait," Princess Qianyue said angrily. "Brother, you do not know how despicable this person is. He is always bullying me." Prince Lingtian's mouth twitched slightly. Given his sister's temper, if he did not go along with her, he would be bullying her. "Listen to me." Prince Lingtian was still rational and calm. There must be a reason why he was invited here. Do not be reckless. This banquet was not an ordinary one, and not just anyone could attend. Those who could attend were special people who had been approved by the royal family, and they had a certain degree of expertise in various aspects. To put it bluntly, everyone present was the future pillar of the Empire of Darkness. How could they be arrested willfully? "Brother, this person is too despicable. I must arrest him." Princess Qianyue had made up her mind, and her attitude was very firm. Prince Lingtian tried to persuade her again, but to no avail. He could only give up. He thought that Su Yu's strength was weak, and he could not be a very important person. If he gave up, then so be it. At that moment, the voice of a boy came from outside the door. "His Majesty the Monarch has arrived." Instantly, everyone stood up and faced the entrance respectfully. They lowered their heads slightly to show their respect. "At ease, my subjects." A gentle voice came into everyone's ears, soothing their nerves. Su Yu was slightly taken aback. This voice sounded a little familiar. He looked up and could not help but be stunned. Wasn't this the blue-robed middle-aged man who had given him the invitation? He was actually the monarch of the Empire of Darkness? "Father!" Princess Qianyue threw herself into the monarch's arms and said pitifully, "Someone bullied me. Father, you must seek justice for me." The monarch was a little helpless. In such an occasion, anyone with the slightest bit of knowledge would not ruin the atmosphere. However, she was his most beloved daughter. "Oh? Who is it?" the monarch asked. Princess Qianyue pointed at Su Yu angrily. "It's him. He bullied me last time, and now he is bullying me again. He is very despicable. Father, please seek justice for me." The monarch followed her gaze, and a hint of joy appeared in his dignified eyes. He quickly stepped forward and said with a smile, "My little friend, you really came? I am very pleased." As soon as these words came out, the whole place fell silent and stunned. Chapter 23:10. Does the monarch know Su Yu? Princess Qianyue's eyes widened. How could her father, who rarely came out, know a junior of unknown origin? Moreover, her father's attitude was a little abnormal. Now, he didn't have the dignity and demeanor of the monarch of the Sleepless Empire at all. Did he treat Su Yu as a distinguished guest? Prince Lingtian's eyes shone brightly as he looked at Su Yu in disbelief. This inconspicuous human actually knew his father? To be exact, his father was very happy about his arrival. Moreover, even Wuxin Tai Constable's attitude towards him was slightly different. Just who in the world was this human? Su Yu recovered from his shock and returned the courtesy. "Thank you for the invitation, Your Majesty." "Haha, don't mention it. Your presence brings light to my humble dwelling." The monarch praised him again and again. His words caused many people to be surprised, but they were even more doubtful and jealous. The mature and prudent elders were fine with it, but the young people in the crowd were quite dissatisfied. Even the monarchs hadn't praised them like this, so why was it that a nameless quasi-dowlord was being praised like this? "Mr. Yao Yu, have you heard of this person? It's really unimaginable. How could the monarch treat him like this?" "I don't know him." Mr. Yao Yu looked at Su Yu coldly. "I guess it's probably because he's special." Although this statement was a little far-fetched, it barely made sense. The colored glaze civilization was full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. There might be a super-strong successor among them. "I see. It's really nothing to rely on his identity and background." "Exactly. The most important thing to stand in this world is one's own ability. People like him, who rely on their background, can only show off for a while, but not forever." They made wild guesses and belittled Su Yu without knowing the truth, which was not in line with their status. Su Yu felt helpless. Even without looking, he knew that the monarch's words had caused a lot of hatred. "You flatter me, Your Majesty," Su Yu said calmly. He was concise and did not want to talk too much. However, the monarch did not seem to understand Su Yu's meaning. Not only did he not end the topic, but he also called Prince Lingtian and Princess Qianyue over. He said with a smile, "My young friend, let me introduce you to my son and daughter." Then, he introduced them to each other. "And this is—" He still did not know Su Yu's name. "You can just call me Su Yu," Su Yu said calmly. "This is young Master Su, haven't you met him yet?" the king said. While Prince Lingtian was filled with suspicion, he did not reveal any of it on his face. Instead, he cupped his hands passionately and said, "So it's young noble Su, nice to meet you. After the banquet, if you have time, come to my mansion. I will definitely entertain you generously." On the other hand, Princess Qianyu's almond-shaped eyes widened in anger. "Father, why aren't you standing up for me? This fellow is really going too far." Unexpectedly, the monarch, who had always sided with Princess Qianyu, reprimanded her. "Qianyu, don't mess around. I saw everything that happened. Young Master Su saved your life, but not only did you not feel grateful, you even spoke ill of him. Now you even threatened to take revenge. What a disgrace." Being criticized by her father in front of everyone, Princess Qianyu immediately burst into tears. She whimpered, "Father doesn't like me anymore, woo, humph. Go back and reflect on your mistakes. Don't embarrass yourself here." Seeing that Princess Qianyu did not repent, but instead became even more aggressive, the monarch's tone suddenly became stern and he began to punish her. When Prince Lingtian saw this, he was astonished to the extreme. What the hell is going on? His father's favoritism towards Princess Qian Yu was almost like spoiling her. Ever since she was young, no matter how big of a mistake Princess Qian Yu had made, her father would always turn a big deal into a small one. Now, Princess Qian Yu was just acting coquettishly and refusing to admit her mistakes. How could he punish her? Prince Ling Tian stared at Su Yu, his eyes flickering with various emotions. This human must have something that my father values. Only Su Yu knew that he must have been discovered when he secretly used the space domain, so he was trying to recruit him. To be honest, if he had known that the middle-aged man in the blue robe was the monarch of the Nightless Empire, he would not have come to this banquet. He really did not want to be involved in the whirlpool of the big forces. What? Reflect on my mistakes? Princess Qian Yu opened her eyes wide, looking at the monarch in disbelief. He was actually punishing her for an outsider. Was there a mistake? What are you waiting for? The monarch scolded. His confidant saw that the monarch was really angry, and immediately carried the princess away. The noisy scene finally quieted down completely. Many of the old and experienced guests looked at Su Yu in a completely different light. This man was definitely not an ordinary person. Xie Xiaoya looked at Su Yu suspiciously. She had always felt that she could not see through Su Yu, and she still could not. No matter where he went, he always brought surprises to people. The Wuxin Iron Constable was also deep in thought. When she first came to the Nightless Empire, she did not see the monarch take him so seriously. Suddenly, the Wuxin Iron Constable seemed to remember something and said softly, I remember that the 9-colored Heavenly Senior who appeared out of nowhere 20 years ago was also a human named Su Yu, right? Those who heard this could not help but be horrified. It was said that in the depths of the western regions, there was a divine mortal body. He killed the sinful lady and destroyed Prince Xiaoyao all by himself. His name was Su Yu. What was even more coincidental was that he was a human. Many people looked at Su Yu deep in thought. But after a moment, they secretly shook their heads. What kind of person was that 9-colored Heavenly Senior? He could probably destroy any 7-star civilization with just a lift of his hand. If such a person wanted to enter an 8-star civilization, he could probably just barge in. Why would he need to attend this banquet and get information about entering an 8-star civilization? Those with a little bit of rationality abandoned this incomparably preposterous idea. Even the monarch, who took Su Yu very seriously, smiled lightly. Even the Xian Dao Palace would have to look up to such a genius. Why would he need to come to their small Nightless Empire? Su Yu smiled lightly. There are many humans, and I don't know how many people have the same name. If you think I am the 9-colored Heavenly Senior, I can shamelessly admit it. Hearing this, everyone smiled and didn't take it seriously. Xie Xiaoya's mouth twitched. Look at how smug he is. Is the 9-colored Heavenly Senior someone he can become just because he wants to? However, the Wuxin Iron Constable's incomparably deep eyes stared deeply at Su Yu as if he could see through everything about Su Yu. All right, everyone, please sit down. The monarch chatted with Su Yu for a long time. Seeing that it was getting late, he announced the official start of the banquet. The servants brought out exceptionally sumptuous treasures for the guests to eat. For a moment, the guests were in high spirits. However, everyone knew that this banquet was just a gimmick. The real focus was the news of gold entering the 8-star civilizations. Sure enough, after 3 rounds of wine, the monarch's face became solemn. He solemnly said, Everyone, the entrance assessment of the 8-star civilizations that occurs once every 100 years is about to begin. This should be the last one. Everyone's heart suddenly sank, and even the atmosphere became gloomy. In less than 80 years, it would be the end of the era. By that time, the western region would be completely destroyed. Therefore, the recruitment of the 8-star civilizations in the western region would be the last one in their lifetime. We have no choice but to send more people into the 8-star civilizations at all costs to create a glimmer of hope for our future. The end of the era was a sharp blade hanging over everyone's head. Now, that sharp blade was about to fall. Your Majesty, please make the arrangements. All the clans of the Nightless Empire will listen to the orders of the monarch and strive to send all the hopeful people into the 8-star civilizations, an old man who looked like he was about to die said. The others expressed their determination one after another. They were determined and had the feeling of unity. In the face of death, even though they usually schemed against each other, they had no choice but to unite at this moment. The monarch said majestically, "I have received your kind intentions. Now I will announce the information from the 8-star civilizations." Hearing this, everyone was excited. Every 100 years, the 8-star civilizations would use various methods to send information to the masters of the various forces. They would tell them about the recruitment this time. The quota for this recruitment is 100 people. The monarch's voice was high. Instantly, everyone was ecstatic. What, 100 people? In the past, there were less than 20 people. That's great. This time, we have great hope. It seems that the 8-star civilizations have also considered our situation, so they specially expanded the quota for recruitment. The monarch's expression did not change. He said again, "The time is 10 years later. The venue will be the Eastern region." Hearing this, everyone's expression slightly froze. The Eastern region was the most ominous place outside the region. As early as the beginning of the era, there had been a long war there, and countless powerful experts had died. Among them, there were no less than 10,000 lords of 7-star civilizations. There were even rumored powerful experts of 8-star civilizations who had died there. After many years, the Eastern region was filled with corpse energy, and it became an evil land. Any martial artist who entered, if their strength had not reached the level of a family leader, would find it difficult to return alive. That was because it had become a cursed land. Unless one was born and raised there, it would be very difficult for outsiders to adapt to the environment there. In the end, they would either drag a body full of evil energy or die there. For many years, the venue had been held in the Western region, Southern region, and Northern region. Theoretically, this year, it should be held in the Western region. Unexpectedly, it was set to be held in the Eastern region. The Eastern region, could it be that the 8-star civilizations made a mistake? Going there itself is a relatively dangerous thing, not to mention holding the recruitment there. An old man raised his concerns. Hearing this, the monarch sighed and shook his head. "I have already discussed this matter with the Palace of Light and the pavilion masters of the sword-seeking pavilion. There is no mistake. It is set to be held in the Eastern region." Everyone's expression became much uglier. Holding it there was really not good news. Chapter 23:11. Everyone's heart began to pound again. Although the number of slots had increased greatly this time, the prodigies of the northern, southern, and eastern regions had indeed shown explosive growth in the past 100 years. They had heard a lot of rumors about it. On the other hand, the Eastern Territory seemed too peaceful. Putting aside the other 8 top-notch Grade 7 civilizations, just the 3 major forces of the Colored Glaze civilization alone had not seen a surge of geniuses in the past 100 years. No matter if it was the Light Palace, the Nightless Empire, or the Sword-Seeking Pavilion, there had never been a situation where the number of geniuses skyrocketed. The only one he could bring out was probably the Lady of Destiny. Speaking of which, it's strange. With the arrival of Doomsday, the other 3 regions have all seen a surge of geniuses. Only our Western region seems to have its luck stolen away, and there hasn't been any change. Someone sighed deeply. Many people agreed with him. Indeed, the Western region seemed to have been deliberately sucked away by someone, and it hadn't developed for many years. So, although 100 slots are a lot, if we don't fight for it with all our strength, we might not be able to get much. If the entire Western region could not get much, How much could fall into the hands of the colored glaze civilization's nightless empire? Only a handful, right? Taking a deep breath, the monarch said in a solemn voice, "In order to give our colored glaze civilization's heaven's pride cultivators more hope of winning, I have negotiated with the princess of the Palace of Light and the master of the sword-seeking pavilion to open the colored glaze ancient cave of the colored glaze civilization and let all the heaven's pride cultivators who have a chance of winning cultivate inside for 5 years." Hearing this, everyone's expression changed drastically. Opening the glazed ancient cave, is it true? Every time it is activated, it will consume almost 100 years of our entire civilization's accumulation. Monarch, is it worth it? If we really do that, the colored glass civilization will have a very difficult time in the future. The glaze ancient cave was a natural ancient cave where the glaze civilization existed. 1 day of cultivation inside was equivalent to 3 years of cultivation outside. Not only were there insights left behind by the colored glaze civilization's pathmasters, but there was also extremely rich Genesis chi. There were even ancient divine items that were beneficial for the pathmasters to raise their cultivation realm. However, opening the glazed ancient cave required an unimaginable amount of resources. In the past, it was very difficult for the 3 great forces to reach an agreement. Now, because the destruction of an era was about to arrive, they'd put aside their former enmity and intended to fight for it. If we can't survive the destruction of the era, what use is there in having so many resources? The monarch sighed. Everyone fell silent. That was indeed the case. They had no other choice but to fight. It's settled then. The country king said, "The opening of the glazed ancient cave will be in a year's time. Go back and make arrangements for the elites with hopes to enter the glazed ancient cave in a year's time." Su Yu's eyes flickered. It sounded like the glazed ancient cave was a pretty good place. Activating it once actually used up the Lazuli civilization's 100 years of accumulation. The colored glaze civilization was 100 times richer than the 7 ultimate civilizations. 100 times more accumulation was enough to create 7 ultimate civilizations, right? It had to be said that this was indeed a big move. However, it was a pity that Suyu was looking for the star positioning plate, so he might not have the chance to go to the glaze ancient cave. The banquet ended just like that. Suyu had indeed obtained a lot of useful information. 10 years later, in the eastern region, he wondered if the Pearl Corpse King had entered an 8-star civilization. If not, would he have gone to the eastern domain to participate in the recruitment? While Suyu was thinking, Xie Xiaoye reminded him to come back to his senses, and he prepared to leave. "My little friend Suyu, please stay." However, the monarch urged him to stay with a smile. Suyu sighed silently. He knew that it wouldn't be easy to leave. He turned around and said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "What instructions does the monarch have?" The monarch was all smiles, but there was a hint of helplessness in his smile. He said, "I know you are not from the Nightless Empire, but can you represent the Nightless Empire and participate in the war? If not, why would he treat Suyu this way?" Suyu was reluctant. He frowned and was about to decline when the monarch said, "My little friend, don't worry. I won't restrict you, and I won't ask you to do anything for the Nightless Empire. I'll just represent the Nightless Empire and participate in the war. Even if you really have the opportunity to enter an 8-star civilization in the future, you can come and go as you please. It doesn't matter if you help the Nightless Empire or not." Suyu asked, "Then what are you after?" He didn't ask him to contribute anything, nor did he tie him to the Empire. "It's because there's no one else in the Nightless Empire." With no one around, the monarch finally said what he found difficult to say. Suyu was silent. Compared to the Palace of Light, the so-called group of geniuses of the Nightless Empire was too disappointing. It was a fool's dream for them to get 100 places. Only with your participation can the people of the Nightless Empire be motivated and work hard. Then, there's a glimmer of hope for a place. If the few geniuses who weren't presentable faced powerful competitors, they would lose momentum from the very beginning. The competition would only get worse and worse until they were completely defeated. If there was a leader like Su Yu, they could still give them a boost and fight for a place in the Glaze ancient cave. How about it? As long as you agree, all the resources in the Empire can be used by you, including the right to enter the Glaze ancient cave. Su Yu was instantly tempted. He might not have the opportunity to enter the Glaze ancient cave, but Xie Xiaoye could definitely study there for a period of time. Sure. He would go to the East region to participate in the recruitment sooner or later. Representing the Nightless Empire was just a convenience. Hearing this, the monarch heaved a long sigh of relief, as if a stone had been lifted from his chest. How about this? You will temporarily stay in the palace from now on. If you need anything, just let me know. How about it? The monarch said. It was difficult to refuse the monarch's kindness. Moreover, Su Yu really didn't have a place to stay. Thank you for your care, monarch. Therefore, Su Yu and Xie Xiaoye moved and stayed in the palace. The safest place in the entire Nightless Empire was undoubtedly the palace, wasn't it? Su Yu then secluded himself to study the information he had about the time-fixing plate. The last time the time-fixing plate appeared was 20 years ago. The Pearl Corpse King appeared in the Glaze civilization and led many zombies to snatch it. The location was the Bull King Mountain of the Sword-Seeking Pavilion. The result was that the Pearl Corpse King succeeded in snatching it, but after using it once, she planned to take the time-fixing plate away. In the end, the strong men of the entire Glaze civilization attacked together. In desperation, the Pearl Corpse King could only give up on the time-fixing plate. In the end, the time-fixing plate fell into the hands of the great palace master of the Palace of Light. Seeing this, Su Yu's face suddenly darkened. It could have fallen into anyone's hands, but it had fallen into the hands of the great palace master of the Palace of Light. He had just come here after causing a ruckus in the Palace of Light. The great palace master, whom he had never met, probably had a particularly bad impression of Su Yu. Xiang borrowed the time-fixing plate from her. Wasn't that a fool's dream? If I had known this would happen, why would I covet the antler of the divine deer of light? Su Yu smiled bitterly. No, he had to think of a way. After thinking about it, Su Yu felt that he could only ask the monarch of the Sleepless Empire for help. Only he could borrow the time-fixing plate from one of the three big shots of the Glaze civilization. With that in mind, he set off for the Taichuan Palace where the monarch resided. Just as he was about to enter, he saw householder Qingyuan leaving the Taichuan Palace from afar. It's him. Su Yu remembered the rumor that householder Qingyuan was Princess Qian Yu's teacher. He saw householder Qingyuan, but the latter did not notice him. He left with a face full of joy, as if he had obtained a great benefit. Su Yu knocked on the door and entered. He saw the monarch leaning over the table, attentively reading the memorials. "Greetings, Your Majesty." The monarch was slightly surprised. It had only been a short while since Su Yu had come to see him. There must be something important. "Mr. Su, you don't have to be so courteous. Is there anything you need?" the monarch asked pleasantly. Su Yu stated his purpose. "Do you need the time-fixing plate?" The monarch's brows furrowed and he looked troubled. Su Yu sighed silently. He knew he was being unreasonable, so he said, "I can promise to do something for you, Your Majesty." The monarch pondered for a moment, then said, "It's not that I don't want to help, but it's very difficult. In order to obtain the time-fixing plate, the great palace master of the Light Palace sacrificed a lot. It's very difficult to borrow the time-fixing plate without paying any price." This was because the end of the era was imminent, and the three great forces had reached a temporary consensus. If it had been an ordinary hostile relationship, it would have been impossible. "I can only give it a try, but I can't guarantee success," the monarch said. Su Yu cupped his fist. "It's only right. As a condition for helping you, I do need you to do something for me." The monarch's eyes flickered slightly. Go ahead, Your Majesty. The monarch said, My daughter's teacher, householder Qingyuan, was sent to the Glaze ancient cave to make preparations in advance. In the absence of a year, I hope you can temporarily serve as Princess Qian Yu's teacher. Serve as her teacher? Su Yu shook his head at the thought of that unruly, willful, and arrogant girl. He said, I'm not qualified enough to serve as a teacher. I know that my daughter is unruly, stubborn, and difficult to educate, but I'll give you a special right, the monarch said reluctantly. Within a year, you can discipline her as you wish. As long as it's within the scope of a teacher's duties, you can discipline her in any way you like. Is that so? Then I can still try to teach her. Otherwise, with her temper, who would be able to discipline her? Sure, but I hope Your Majesty can agree to another condition. Please speak. You cannot see Princess Qian Yu for a year. Only then would Princess Qian Yu give up and obey him. The monarch couldn't bear to see his daughter. He was sure that his daughter would most likely suffer. However, the end of the era was imminent. Only by making her suffer would she have a chance of entering an 8-star civilization. Sure. Su Yu heaved a sigh of relief. That would be easy. I wonder what Your Majesty wants me to teach her. If it's about strength, my personal cultivation is almost the same as hers. I'm afraid I can't teach her well. The monarch waved his sleeves and closed the door. He even cast a special soundproof seal. To tell you the truth, my daughter's constitution is quite unique. Su Yu wasn't too surprised. The monarch's favoritism for Princess Qian Yu was not without reason. Otherwise, there would be no reason for them to neglect Prince Lingtian, who was perfect in all aspects, while taking care of Princess Qian Yu, who was mediocre in all aspects. She has the 9 divine body. Su Yu's brows twitched. Why does this constitution sound so familiar? Chapter 23:12. After pondering for a while, Su Yu finally remembered that this was the constitution that Gu Taishu had cultivated with great difficulty. Su Yu frowned slightly and said, Forgive me for being blunt, but the 9 divine body evolved from the 9 spirit body, right? Once this constitution is cultivated successfully, it will display 9 divine laksana. This constitution is only useful for the Star River Overlord, right? Princess, you have reached the level of a half-path master. What is the use of this constitution? The monarch was surprised. You know about the 9 divine body? Yes, I had an enemy who had the 9 divine body. But that was a long time ago. The monarch came to a sudden realization and said, That's a coincidence. You even encountered a rare constitution like the body of 9 gods twice. After a pause, the monarch continued, You must be talking about the acquired 9 divine body. The acquired 9 divine body is divided into 2 parts. The acquired 9 divine body. The acquired 9 divine body is evolved by the owner of the 9 spirit body by devouring a large amount of blood essence of living creatures. The process is very cruel and goes against the natural order. Su Yu nodded to show that he was listening carefully. The acquired 9 divine body is very limited. It can only cultivate 9 divine laksana at most. However, this is not the case. If the owner continues to devour blood essence, the acquired 9 divine body will continue to evolve. Oh? This was new to Su Yu. He had never seen this in the relevant ancient books. Once the devouring is successful, the owner will have the 9 divine bodies. The monarch said seriously. The so-called 9 divine bodies means that once the owner becomes a pathmaster, he will have 9 great ways. His strength can be imagined. 9 great ways, 9 doctrine artifacts, 9 realms. His strength alone was probably comparable to a powerhouse at the level of the patriarch. This was considering that the 9 great ways were relatively ordinary. If the great ways he cultivated were extremely powerful, his strength would be far beyond the family master's level. He might even reach the top level like Xia Yan. Your enemy had better be dead. If he is still alive, you will be in big trouble in the future, the monarch reminded Su Yu meaningfully. Su Yu said calmly, if he is still alive, he better pray that he doesn't meet me. Otherwise, he would kill him every time he met him. Just be careful, the monarch said. My daughter has the acquired 9 divine body. This god body doesn't need to swallow creatures' blood to cultivate, but it's also very difficult to cultivate. The monarch frowned and said, she needs to rely on continuous fighting to stimulate the transformation of the 9 gods' body. The process is very slow. If she didn't have such a physique, then with her natural talent, she would have become a Tao Lord a long time ago. Perhaps she would have broken through even earlier than Big Brother. How could she have fallen to this day and been unable to break through to become a Tao Lord for so long? Su Yu nodded in understanding. Wasn't he? According to the standards of a normal person, if he only cultivated one Tao, he could already be called a Tao Master. His body and soul had already undergone Tao transformation. His spatial laws had also undergone Tao transformation. He had even cultivated a spatial domain. However, because the other 7 laws hadn't been able to attain the Tao for a long time, he couldn't be considered a Tao Lord, and he could only be considered a half-step Tao Lord. Who would have thought that the unruly and untalented Princess Qian Yu would have such a constitution? No wonder the monarch was so biased and protective of her. Compared to her, the seemingly perfect Prince Ling Tian was indeed slightly mediocre. You want me to train him? Su Yu understood the monarch's intention. The monarch nodded. Yes. Su Yu was puzzled, so he asked, if you want to train yourself, you can just find any strong martial artist, right? Why did you specially ask me to come here? Putting aside everything else, just the guards of Princess Qian Yu were more than enough for him to hone his skills. You may not know this, but training requires the activation of the 9 gods' body. Once the 9 gods' body is activated, my daughter will be in great danger. There was once a master of the family who was injured by the 9 gods' body and died. Therefore, no one in the know is willing to be the training partner of the 9 gods' body, and his training has been stagnant for a long time. During this period, only the monarch dared to spar with Princess Qian Yu in the state of the 9 gods' body. However, he was busy most of the time and had little time to spend with Princess Qian Yu. Does your Majesty think too highly of me? Su Yu thought to himself. Even a master of the family had died tragically. Wasn't he afraid that something bad would happen to him? The monarch laughed. You have mastered the spatial domain. In terms of escaping, I am no match for you. It should be the safest for you to spar with her. Su Yu wanted to refuse, but when he thought of the time-fixing plate, he had to agree. Although he was taking a risk, the monarch must have paid a huge price to borrow the time-fixing plate for him. All right, when do we start? Now. One more day means one more chance for her, the monarch said. Su Yu nodded. All right, I will go to the princess mansion now. Please remember my request. During this period, you must not see Princess Qian Yu. After they had agreed, Su Yu was led by the monarch's trusted aide, an elder in a green robe, to the princess mansion. He saw Princess Qian Yu squatting in the yard, facing a wall. However, she did not think about it. Instead, she held a little person in her left hand and a needle in her right hand. She kept poking the little person. The name, Su Yu, was clearly written on the chest of the little person. Stupid Su Yu, I will poke you 1,000 times, 10,000 times, until you die, she muttered as she poked the little person. The elder in the green robe appeared. When he saw the scene, the corners of his mouth twitched. He cast an embarrassed look at Su Yu. Mr. Su, this is the princess's temper. Please don't take it to heart. Don't worry, of course I won't take it to heart, not at all. Su Yu laughed softly. Since he had decided to be Princess Qian Yu's teacher, he would take it seriously. When a student poked a teacher, it had to be dealt with strictly. Cough, cough. The elder in the green robe coughed dryly. Princess, His Majesty has issued a decree. Princess Qian Yu immediately turned around and said resentfully, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. My father doesn't love me anymore. The elder in the green robe braced himself and said, Princess, His Majesty has issued a decree to arrange a new teacher for you. A new teacher? Who is it? Princess Qian Yu's interest was piqued. Since she was young, only householder Qing Yuan had been her teacher for a period of time, before her 9 divine body was discovered. Then, no one would be qualified to be her teacher. Why would a new teacher suddenly be found for her? It is Mr. Su. The elder in the green robe stepped aside, revealing Su Yu behind him. When Princess Qian Yu saw Su Yu, her eyes widened. She could not believe her ears. What? He is my teacher? This is the monarch's decree. Seeing the princess's reaction, the elder in the green robe had the foresight to distance himself from the two of them. Princess Qian Yu shouted, Has my father gone mad? How could he arrange for him to be my teacher? No, I want to see my father. I want to ask him for an explanation. Princess Qian Yu felt like an abandoned child. The elder in the green robe said, His Majesty is busy with official business and has not received any guests for the past year. In addition, Mr. Su has been granted special privileges by the monarch. He can command all the people and resources in the princess residence, including you. Without Mr. Su's approval, you cannot even take half a step out of the princess residence. What? Princess Qian Yu could not believe it. How could her father give such a crazy order? Didn't this mean that she was completely under Su Yu's control? If Su Yu had any evil intentions and did something to her, she would not even have anyone to protect her. The decree has been conveyed. I will take my leave now. The elder in the green robe was actually quite happy. All these years, the princess had been acting like a tyrant, causing the entire empire to be filled with resentment. However, the monarch doted on her, and no one dared to do anything to her. Now, someone was finally going to punish her. After the elder in the green robe left, Princess Qian Yu glared at Su Yu angrily. If you know what's good for you, leave the princess residence immediately. Otherwise, Otherwise what? Otherwise, the entire princess residence is filled with my trusted subordinates. Be careful, or I will make you suffer. Su Yu stood calmly with his arms crossed. Then try me. You said it. Don't regret it. Princess Qian Yu laughed coldly. Guards. Swish. 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 The 3 elders, who were at the level of family masters, who were protecting her, as well as 10 ordinary path masters. They surrounded the princess to protect her. Chase him out. Princess Qian Yu ordered. The group of people obeyed Princess Qian Yu's order and were about to attack. However, Su Yu calmly took out a golden token. The golden light it emitted was extremely dazzling, causing the group of people who were about to attack to stop in their tracks. They knelt on the ground in fear. Greetings, Your Majesty. Princess Qian Yu took a deep breath. Why is my father's identity token in your hands? There was only one such token, and the monarch rarely left it with him. Only on special occasions, when he was unable to go personally, would he order someone to bring the token. Seeing the token was like seeing the monarch in person. No matter how loyal the princess's subordinates were, how could they disobey the monarch? Of course it was given to me by your father, Su Yu said calmly. He looked around at the people kneeling on the ground and said, Guards, tie the princess up. What? Princess Qian Yu was so angry that her lungs were about to explode. She was a dignified princess, so how could she be tied up? Who dares? Princess Qian Yu was furious. Su Yu looked at them calmly, his eyes slightly narrowed. Anyone who disobeys will be treated as disobeying the monarch. Only then did they stand up hesitantly and walk towards Princess Qian Yu. How dare you? Princess Qian Yu said angrily as she shrank back. However, Su Yu had the monarch's token in his hand. Who would dare disobey his orders? Even if they offended the princess, they could only bite the bullet. We have offended the princess. A group of people stepped forward and tied the princess up. The princess was so angry that she struggled wildly. However, her whole body was tied up like a dumpling. She stumbled and fell to the ground, face down. You bastards! I will not let you off. Su Yu was expressionless. He said calmly, hang me up. To teach a person, one had to first teach them how to behave. How could someone as rebellious as her be taught? The people could only follow Su Yu's orders and hang Princess Qian Yu under the eaves. How dare you! I'm going to complain to Imperial Father and have your heads chopped off. Princess Qian Yu was so angry that she glared at the crowd. How dare you! Su Yu's eyes were calm as he said, this is just the beginning. Your Highness, don't be too impatient. Hearing this, the people around them felt a chill in their hearts. What does this Su Yu intend to do to the princess? Chapter 23:13. Su Yu, I'm not afraid of you. Princess Qianyue shouted angrily. Su Yu looked at her calmly. I was fortunate enough to see their fog forest when I was in the Palace of Light. They put criminals and prisoners there and left them to their own devices. The people of the Nightless Kingdom knew about the famous dense fog forest. It was said that many ferocious Path Master-level beasts were kept there. You want to build a fog forest? Haha, it's useless. There aren't many Path Master-level beasts in the Nightless Empire. Princess Qianyue scoffed at Su Yu's idea. Su Yu smiled faintly. There aren't many Path Master-level beasts, but there are many half-Path Master-level beasts. As he spoke, he pointed his finger at Princess Qianyue. Several balls of dragon power were injected into her body, blocking the meridians that were circulating the desolate power. Someone, remove all the treasures on her body. Several female cultivators stepped forward and forced themselves to remove Princess Qian Yu's clothes, leaving her with only her undergarments. All the treasure-level ornaments on her body were taken away. Bring all the half-path master-level beasts in the palace here. Under his command, the people of the princess's mansion were all under his command, and everything was arranged quickly. Half a day later, Su Yu held a small cavern world in his hand. The space inside was only 1/5 of the size of the fog forest. Similarly, there were only 1/5 of the wild beasts. Roar! As soon as the cavern world was opened, the hungry and irritated roars of the wild beasts could be heard coming from inside. Many of the wild beasts were killing and devouring each other. Everyone's hearts were pounding. Wasn't this too dangerous? The princess's desolate power and treasures were sealed, leaving only her physique. However, her physique was only at the level of a half-path master, not much stronger than the wild beasts inside. She would be in great danger if she had to face two wild beasts at the same time. While they were thinking, Su Yu had already picked up Princess Qianyue and tossed her into the cavern world. Su Yu, I won't forgive you. Roar! Roar! A series of excited roars drowned out Princess Qianyue's angry roars. Her appearance was like food to many wild beasts, so they naturally chased after her. The pitiful Princess Qian Yu was only left with her physical body. However, competing with a savage beast in terms of physical strength was no different from displaying one's slight skill before an expert. She had no choice but to hide here and there, trying her best to get rid of the beast. She had thought of begging for forgiveness from Su Yu, but her pride prevented her from lowering her head to Su Yu. For several days, she was exhausted from running around. This space was simply too small, and there were too many savage beasts around. It wasn't long before Zhang Xian was discovered by the savage beasts, and he had no choice but to flee for his life. For several days in a row, she didn't even have a way to restore her strength. She could only rely on picking wild spiritual herbs to barely restore her strength. I can do it, I can definitely do it. Princess Qian Yu was exceptionally stubborn, and she refused to bow her head. However, how many days could she endure without sufficient replenishment? Finally, a few days later, due to his lack of stamina, he was no longer able to escape the pursuit of a group of savage beasts. He was surrounded and forced into a corner. Princess Qianyu gritted her teeth and thought to herself, I am the princess of the Nightless Empire. Does Su Yu really dare to feed me to the beasts? He'll definitely make a move when I'm in trouble. With that in mind, she raised her head and looked out of the cavern world with a sneer, as if to say, do as you see fit. However, she would never have guessed that Su Yu was not observing the cavern world at all. Instead, he was leisurely practicing by himself, unaware of Princess Qianyu's current situation. A few martial artists who were observing the cavern world turned pale with fright, and said in a panic, Mr. Su, the princess is in danger, save her quickly. This cavern world belonged to Su Yu, and they could not control it. All they could do was watch anxiously. However, Su Yu's expression was indifferent. It's not time yet. If he wanted to teach Princess Qianyu, he had to teach her the meaning of respect. She was a student who was not afraid of anything, and even a deity couldn't teach her. When is the time? Are you waiting for her to be bitten to death? The three elders who had been guarding the princess all year round glared at him. The princess had been hunted for more than 10 days, and she had suffered so much. If she was hurt, then they would fight Su Yu to the death. Moreover, if Princess Qianyu was killed, would they still be alive? They would be executed by the monarch. So be it, Su Yu said calmly, not caring at all. At worst, he could bring her back to life. What was so difficult about that? You are making trouble. The people were furious when they found out that Su Yu did not care about the princess's life at all. Su Yu took out the token of the monarch quietly and said indifferently, From now on, everyone is to leave this small courtyard, and no one is allowed to approach it under any circumstances. Otherwise, you will be punished for deceiving the monarch. They were shocked and angry at the same time. Su Yu was too audacious. I will report you to the monarch. The three elders who were guarding the princess swung their hands angrily and left in panic. The rest of the people also left, dissatisfied with Su Yu's method. How could he treat the princess like that? Su Yu shook his head secretly. Although the monarch doted on the princess, the excessive protection of the people around her was also partly due to the princess's stubbornness. They seemed to be protecting the princess, but in fact they were harming her. Without real experience, it was impossible to be reborn. Go to hell. At this time, a strange change occurred in the cavern world. Princess Qianyu, who had been cornered, finally activated the 9 divine bodies in her body. 9 majestic ancient gods, visible to the naked eye, came out of her body and attacked the group of beasts that were attacking her. Wherever the gods passed, a large number of beasts were crushed to death. The power of each of the gods was no less than that of a Path Master. If the 9 gods joined hands, the Path Master, who was at the level of a family master, would be in danger. However, the power of desolation in Princess Qianyu's body was sealed, so she could not maintain the status of a god for a long time. In just 3 breaths the god collapsed. The fleeing beasts sensed the situation and surrounded Princess Qianyu again. Pairs of hungry eyes stared at her with desire to devour her. Then, they rushed over to her. Princess Qianyu's face turned pale, but she firmly believed that Su Yu would not sit by and do nothing. He would definitely save her at the last moment. Roar. The furious roars were so close to her ear that they made her eardrums vibrate, and an incomparably fishy wind blew in her face. What followed was the excruciating pain of her arm being torn apart. Moreover, it was not only in one place but in many places. She was being attacked and devoured by the group of beasts. Ah! Save me! Quickly save me! At this moment, Princess Qianyu felt the first fear in her life while suffering from a heart-wrenching pain. However, no one came to save her. The scene of Su Yu appearing in her imagination did not appear. Instead, all she saw were the beasts pouncing on her. Princess Qianyu was completely flustered and she cried out, I was wrong, I was really wrong. Unfortunately, no one paid attention to her, and the excruciating pain caused her to lose consciousness and sink into an eternal coma. She knew that she was going to die. Moreover, she was going to die in such a ridiculous manner. In the outside world, Suyu had already arrived in front of the cavern world. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, and in his left hand was Princess Qian Yu's personal magical treasure. In the center of his palm, a jade-green light was hovering. Resurrection, he muttered softly, and the jade-green light continued to expand, condensing blood vessels, bones, and flesh from nothing. The last complete Princess Qian Yu was lying in front of him. Her arms were wrapped around her body, and she was shivering. Her face was filled with pain, as if she was still immersed in the moment before death. "Wake up, get up," Suyu said with a faint smile. Princess Qian Yu was taken aback, and she opened her eyelids a little in fear. What she saw was no longer the gaping mouths, but the blue sky and the face of a silver-haired human. For the first time, she felt that the silver-haired human's face was very kind, and for the first time, she felt that this world was bright and precious. Am I not dead?" Princess Qian Yu sat up and examined her unscathed body. Her heart was filled with confusion. Even the most precious medicine and the best healing methods could not heal her body in such a short time, right? The stronger one's body was, the more difficult it was to recover from injuries. How did Suyu do it? Moreover, she had a strange feeling that this body did not belong to her. It was as if it had been remade. In the past, due to years of training, her body had accumulated some minor problems, but now they were all gone. It was as if she had been reborn. Suyu calmly put away the cavern world and glanced inside. The group of beasts was still feasting on Princess Qian Yu's body. "If you want to die, I can send you in to experience it again," Suyu said calmly. Princess Qian Yu shuddered. Even if it was an illusion, a nightmare, she did not want to experience it again. The feeling of being eaten by the beasts was too real, too painful, and too horrifying. Just thinking about it made Princess Qian Yu shudder. She looked up at Suyu, and there was still anger in her eyes, but more than that there was fear. Most of the arrogance she had in the past had disappeared. "Fortunately, you did not die in vain," Suyu said, looking at her reaction. "I was thinking of letting you in a few more times." Don't. I don't want to go in again," Princess Qian Yu said hurriedly. She was so anxious that tears were about to fall from her eyes. It seemed that this cavern world had left an unforgettable impression on her. Suyu shook his head secretly. She had too little experience. Which real divine expert had not experienced despair many times? However, since she was afraid, it would be much easier for him to teach her. "Do you still acknowledge me as your teacher?" "I do. I do." Princess Qian Yu replied immediately, afraid that Suyu would throw her in again. Suyu nodded. "Come with me." The two of them came to the training field of the princess mansion. Suyu withdrew the dragon power from the princess's body, and released the desolate force. "Make your move, use your best attack." Princess Qian Yu felt like she had been reborn after regaining the desolate force. Looking at Suyu, a hidden anger flashed in the depths of Princess Qian Yu's eyes. "I am best at the 9 divine body. Once I use it, you will either die or be seriously injured. Make your move," Suyu urged. Chapter 23:14. Good. Teacher Su, please be careful. Princess Qianyue smiled mysteriously and decided to give Suyu a big surprise. The body of 9 gods. Immediately, 9 kinds of divine Laksana appeared in her body and attacked Suyu at the same time. Each of the divine Laksana was comparable to an ordinary path master. If the 9 divine Laksana attacked Suyu at the same time, Suyu would definitely be defeated or even seriously injured. It was time to let Suyu taste the pain. However, the scene of Suyu being beaten down did not happen. Suyu stood where he was and did not even move his feet. He just stretched out his arm casually. Immediately, his arm was covered with a layer of scales and turned into a dragon claw. After that, he patted the 9 Dharma projections and repelled all of their attacks. How is this possible? Princess Qianyue was dumbfounded. She was the clearest about how powerful her Dharma idol was. Even the clan master level powerhouses had to be extremely careful in order to avoid it. However, Suyu was able to repel them with just one hand. He was just a half-path master. How could he have such a terrifying body? However, what drove Princess Qianyue crazy was that after Suyu repelled the divine Laksana, he did not stop. Instead, he frowned slightly. You are much weaker than I thought. The road of tempering is long and arduous. Before he came here, he was worried that the divine Laksana would be in danger. Now, it seemed that the body of 9 gods was far from being able to threaten Suyu. As he spoke, he took the initiative to attack the 9 divine Laksana. Every time he attacked, the divine Laksana trembled slightly. Its body was constantly changing, as if it was about to be destroyed. The 9 divine Laksana and Princess Qianyue were connected. When they were hurt, Princess Qianyue also felt pain. Gritting her teeth, Princess Qianyue said reluctantly, "Again." The 9 divine Laksana roared angrily and attacked Suyu from all directions. However, their attacks were like raindrops falling on Suyu's body. They could not hurt him at all. After dozens of rounds, Princess Qianyue was covered in sweat and her lips were trembling. It was obvious that she was in great pain. Suyu sighed and had to stop. She had just experienced the pain of death and was affected by the divine Laksana. If he continued, her body would not be able to bear it. "We'll continue tomorrow," Suyu said. Princess Qianyue asked pitifully, "Tomorrow? Can you wait for a few days?" Suyu silently took out the cavern world. Princess Qianyue's face paled, and she quickly said, all right, let's continue tomorrow." Princess Qianyue shuddered at the sight of this cavern world. In the following days, Suyu sparred with Princess Qianyue's 9 divine body every day. Under Suyu's crazy destruction and sharpening, his god's law was much more solid than before, and the power it released was also slightly stronger than before. Now that they had joined forces to attack him, Suyu needed to take them seriously in order to resist them. Unfortunately, Princess Qianyue was in great pain all day long, so she didn't pay attention to the changes in her god body. On this day, after the sparring session ended, a few guests came to the princess's residence. Princess Qianyue hugged her shivering body and asked Suyu, "Can I go and meet him?" "Go ahead." Now that they had finished exchanging pointers, Suyu would not interfere with her normal activities. In the guest hall of the princess residence, Princess Qianyue was receiving a group of young elites. Young Master Yao Yu was one of them. "Princess, why haven't you come to the Heavenly Cloud Tower recently to spar with us?" Mr. Yao Yu asked with a smile. In the past, Princess Qianyue would spar with the elites of the Nightless Empire in the Heavenly Cloud Tower. However, in the last month, Princess Qianyue had not stepped into the Heavenly Cloud Tower even once. Therefore, Mr. Yao Yu and the others came to visit. Princess Qianyue said, "It's a long story. Recently, I have a new teacher who is very strict with me. Without his permission, I can't go out." Many young elites were amazed. Who didn't know that Princess Qianyue was a fearless existence in the Nightless Empire? Who could discipline her? It must be a powerful senior of virtue, right? Everyone thought so, and they couldn't help but feel respect for her. "I see." Mr. Yao Yu said regretfully, "The recruitment of the 8-star civilization is imminent. We, the members of the Nightless Palace, need to practice harder." The Light Palace had the Emissary of Light, and the Nightless Empire had the Nightless Palace, which gathered the strongest elites of the Nightless Empire. Mr. Yao Yu and the others were the members of the palace. Moreover, Mr. Yao Yu was the top-ranked member. His ability was the strongest among the elites of the Nightless Empire, and he had always ranked first in previous spars. Princess Qianyue sighed and said, "It's a pity that I'm restricted and can't go to the Heavenly Cloud Tower to spar with everyone." Mr. Yao Yu said with a smile, "Why do we need to go to the Heavenly Cloud Tower?" Isn't it better for us to participate in the princess's residence? Hearing this, Princess Qianyu was tempted. She had always been very focused on practicing martial arts. Otherwise, she wouldn't have met Su Yu twice during spars. As long as you don't mind working hard, you can stay in my residence and spar with me. Princess Qianyu was eager. Soon, under Princess Qianyu's arrangement, they entered the training field and began to spar with each other. The first to attack was Mr. Yao Yu. His ability was worthy of the first place. His cultivation was at the level of the Master of Light, and his doctrine artifact and realm had taken shape. He easily suppressed the other members of the Nightless Palace. His ability was roughly equivalent to Kong Chu of the Emissary of Light. Princess Qianyu, who was watching from the side, secretly admired him. Mr. Yao Yu was indeed very outstanding and rare among his peers. In previous spars, even when she displayed the 9 divine body, she was still quickly defeated. After a round of sparring, Mr. Yao Yu looked at Princess Qianyu and said with a smile, "Princess, how about we have a spar?" Princess Qianyu couldn't have asked for more. She said, "Haha, I hope Mr. Yao Yu will go easy on me. Otherwise, I won't be able to defeat you." "Haha, no problem." Mr. Yao Yu laughed. He thought to himself, I should go easy on Princess Qianyu when the time is right. I can't let Princess Qianyu lose too badly. The two of them came to the center of the training field. Faced with a tough opponent like Mr. Yao Yu, Princess Qianyu immediately displayed the 9 divine body and waited for him. Mr. Yao Yu said with a smile, "Be careful, Princess." Princess Qianyu nodded and began to spar with Princess Yu Yu. Mr. Yao Yu's eyes flickered. He was prepared to attack with all his strength and gain the upper hand before going easy on Princess Qianyu. In this way, people would see that his ability was far superior to Princess Qianyu's, and they would understand that he was going easy on Princess Qianyu. Mr. Yao Yu released his domain and attacked with his Dao tool. According to his previous experience, this all-out attack should be able to force Princess Qianyu's 9 divine body to retreat. 10,000 demons devour the sea. Cloud Dao Needle. Princess Qianyu's expression turned solemn. She prepared herself for her god projection to be forced back. Bang! Bang! However, what astonished Princess Qianyu was that not only did her god projection not retreat, it even smashed through Mr. Yao Yu's domain and sent his Dao tool flying. The remnant energy even forced Mr. Yao Yu, who was caught off guard, to retreat again and again. He almost fell to the ground. The expressions of the onlookers also changed. What was going on? Did Big Brother Yao Yu go easy on Princess Qianyu? That should be the case. Otherwise, Princess Qianyu wouldn't have been able to gain the upper hand. Really, Big Brother Yao Yu, he doesn't show any mercy to us. He only has tender feelings for Princess Qianyu. Hearing their words, Princess Qianyu felt relieved. No wonder. However, only Mr. Yao Yu knew that he didn't go easy on Princess Qianyu. Princess Qianyu's god projection was much stronger than before. Although each god projection didn't have any special changes, there were 9 of them. When they were stacked together, the changes were quite obvious. However, Princess Qianyu didn't notice it. Mr. Yao Yu crawled up from the ground. He felt very dispirited. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to keep his first place. "Mr. Yao Yu, why don't we call it a day? I think you must be too tired from the continuous fights." Princess Qianyu was quite disappointed. She really hoped that Mr. Yao Yu wouldn't show any mercy. He would attack mercilessly like Su Yu. That would be helpful for his cultivation. However, Princess Qianyu didn't want to go all out. Mr. Yao Yu coughed lightly and said, "I was a little careless just now. If I have a chance to fight next time, I won't go easy on you." It was obvious that he wasn't as good as the princess, but he still wanted to flatter himself. "I've troubled you today, Princess. Let's meet again another day." Mr. Yao Yu cupped his fists and said his goodbyes. When he left the Princess Manor, he took a deep look at the Princess Manor and thought to himself, The Emperor has really found a powerful teacher for Princess Qianyu. It has only been a month since I last saw him, but her 9 gods physique has already evolved to such an extent. How terrifying! He predicted that the next time they met, he wouldn't be a match for Princess Qianyu. After Princess Qianyu finished her fight, she passed by a small courtyard and saw Su Yu quietly reading a communication jade scroll. She couldn't help but snort angrily. He had made her suffer for a month, and she didn't get anything out of it. What kind of teacher is this? Su Yu didn't know that the princess had fought with someone else. He was reading the jade scroll carefully, and a bitter smile appeared on his face. This was the message that the monarch had just sent. The content of the Jade Scroll was that the Nightless Empire and the Palace of Light were going to have a friendly exchange between the youths of both sides before the opening of the Glaze Ancient Cave. The main participants were the emissaries of Light and the Nightless Palace. On the surface, it was obviously a martial arts exchange, but in reality, it was to discuss some specific cooperation matters in the Glaze Ancient Cave. There were dangers in the Glaze Ancient Cave, so both sides hoped to reach a cooperative state and take care of each other in the Glaze Ancient Cave. This friendly exchange was to lay the foundation for this. I'm afraid it'll be difficult to be friendly. Su Yu laughed. The emissaries of Light had been suppressing the Nightless Palace for years and had always looked down on the Nightless Palace with a superior attitude. Why would they lower themselves to be friends with the Nightless Palace? Forget it, let's see what happens to them. Su Yu shook his head and looked at another message from the monarch. A smile flashed across his face. Chapter 23:15. It was unknown what price the monarch had paid, but the palace master of the Light Palace had decided to lend the time-fixing plate to the Nightless Empire. At that time, it would be brought to the Nightless Kingdom by the radiant emissaries for this friendly exchange. Finally! Su Yu heaved a long sigh of relief. He had found the time-fixing plate and was able to inquire about the whereabouts of the sinful Lady Palace and revive Yun Yazi's soul. Thinking of this, he was looking forward to the friendly exchange that would take place in a few months. Since the monarch had kept his promise and borrowed the star positioning plate, Su Yu would naturally teach Princess Qianyu more diligently. In the following days, Su Yu accompanied Princess Qianyu to hone her 9 divine body during the day, and at night, he seized the time to consolidate the undying soul state. One day, Xie Xiaoye came to visit. Is there a need to be so serious about teaching that unruly princess? Xie Xiaoye had actually come many times, but every time she came, Su Yu was training the princess in seclusion. Su Yu said, I was entrusted by someone, so I have to be loyal to him. I have a clear conscience. Looking at Xie Xiaoye, Su Yu asked, Are you not comfortable living in the palace? No, I heard a piece of news, so I came to tell you. Xie Xiaoye said, I heard that the Nightless Temple in the city is preparing to hold a sparring session among the prodigies of the Nightless Empire. Su Yu's gaze was indifferent. He was not interested in the sparring session that they were holding. Su Yu didn't even care about young Master Yao Yu's power, so their duels were meaningless to him. Xie Xiaoye's eyes flickered and she said, I know you're not interested in their spars, but do you know who will be participating in this sparring session? I know him? There must be a deeper meaning behind her question. Snow Dream Flying Rain. Su Yu was slightly surprised, but he didn't show any more surprise. Because not long ago, he had seen this woman at the border. What was strange was that she was able to freely enter and exit the military camp of the Palace of Light, and the general of Xianhua's clan seemed to be extremely secretive about this. You've seen her before? Xie Xiaoye asked curiously, reading something from Su Yu's eyes. Su Yu nodded and told him about the incident at the Palace of Light's military camp. Xie Xiaoye's face was full of suspicion. What are they planning to do this time? It's one thing for golden-eyed Langjun to become the vice president of the local Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce, but how did his daughter get involved with the Palace of Light? Su Yu's eyes flickered fiercely. Golden-eyed Langjun had actually become the Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce's vice president? Why? Based on his experience in dealing with the Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce, everyone in the Star Alliance Chamber of Commerce was greedy and insatiable. The price that an outsider had to pay to become their vice president was probably unimaginable. Golden-eyed Langjun was just an ordinary patriarch-level Dowlord from the 7 ultimate civilizations. Could he afford such a high price? He deeply doubted this. This pair of father and daughter are really plotting something. The uneasiness in Su Yu's heart became even stronger. If they were in another civilization, Su Yu could ignore them. However, this was the colored glaze civilization, so he couldn't just sit back and do nothing when it involved himself. If that's the case, I will have to attend this sparring session personally. Su Yu's eyes flickered. The next day, as usual, Su Yu was sparring with Princess Qianyu. When the sparring ended, Princess Qianyu hesitated and said, "Teacher Su, I would like to take a day off." "Why?" "I have an important sparring session tomorrow, and I would like to attend it." "Teacher Su, please allow me." Su Yu calmly said, "Sure." Princess Qianyu was secretly delighted. This new teacher was very sensible. Unexpectedly, Su Yu changed the topic and said, "But you must bring me along." He had been worrying about how to arrange things for Princess Qianyu, and he hadn't expected her to receive an invitation as well. Princess Qianyu's face stiffened. She didn't want the world to know that she was being disciplined by a teacher. "Fortunately," Su Yu said, "but I won't be attending as your teacher." "That's great." "Oh, I mean, I'll follow your arrangement." Princess Qianyu heaved a long sigh of relief. Su Yu said, "I'll attend as your friend." "Yes, Teacher Su." The teacher and the teacher made some preparations and headed to the West Wind Tower in the Imperial City the next day. The tower was already filled with invited geniuses, with Mr. Yao Yu as the leader. Prince Lingtian had also come as a prince to support them. The friendly exchange in a few months was related to the honor of the younger generation of martial artists of the Nightless Empire. How could they not take it seriously? Upon closer inspection, Su Yu discovered that even the heartless Iron Constable rarely showed up. She sat quietly in a corner, holding a scroll in her hand as she carefully read through the cases. She seemed out of place with the atmosphere. "The princess has arrived," the servant of the West Wind Tower announced loudly when he saw the princess carriage from afar. Everyone was excited. After all, she was the emperor's most beloved princess, and she was a member of the Nightless Ming Palace. Naturally, she was welcomed by everyone. Mr. Yao Yu wore a bright smile as he took the initiative to go downstairs and welcome the princess. The curtains of the carriage were opened by a servant girl, and Princess Qianyu stepped out first. "Princess, your presence brings light to my humble dwelling," Mr. Yao Yu said with a smile. Princess Qianyu nodded and jumped out of the carriage. However, she did not follow Mr. Yao Yu's invitation to go upstairs. Instead, she waited beside the carriage. "Princess." Mr. Yao Yu looked at her with a puzzled expression. At that moment, another youth stepped out of the carriage. It was Su Yu. Seeing him step out of the princess carriage, everyone present could not remain calm. "What's going on? How can the princess carriage be used by others? That's not right. Why would the princess come with this human? What the f***ck? Who does he think he is? How can he share a carriage with the princess?" Even the heartless Iron Constable put down his scroll and looked at Su Yu with a thoughtful expression. Prince Lingtian was also surprised. The royal family had strict rules, and his sister's carriage was not for ordinary men to ride. Mr. Yao Yu, who was beside him, was the most shocked. This silver-haired human, whom he had always regarded as unremarkable, had been warmly received by the emperor, and now he was riding in the princess carriage? As far as he knew, outsiders were not allowed to ride on this carriage, especially men who were not part of the royal family. Mr. Yao Yu frowned and asked, "Princess, who is this person?" Princess Qianyu was very reluctant to introduce Su Yu, but she had no other choice. So, she asked, "Did you forget about him at the banquet the other day?" Suyu. Mr. Yao Yu did not want to know his name. Princess, he and you are friends, Princess Qian Yu said briefly and guiltily. Could friends ride in Princess Qian Yu's carriage? They had been friends with the princess for many years, but they had never seen the princess allow them to ride in her carriage. This human called Suyu had, in just a few days, gained the right to do so. It was difficult for Mr. Yao Yu not to be jealous. But on the surface, he was very generous. He said with a smile, "So it is, Mr. Su. Look at my bad memory. Please." He thought to himself. This human was too famous, and he did not care about the members of the Nightless Ming Palace at all. The previous banquet was fine, but this time he was participating in the sparring session in such a high-profile manner. I'll make him suffer a little later. Suyu could tell what he was thinking, but did he care? The group went up to the West Building. "Princess, please." Princess Qian Yu was naturally treated like the moon, and she was escorted to the most distinguished seat. Mr. Yao Yu turned to Suyu and smiled apologetically. "There are no more seats here. Please help yourself, Mr. Su." Suyu looked around. Wherever he looked, all the young talents raised their necks, or crossed their legs to occupy the empty seats, or looked at him with hostility, telling him not to come closer. The whole building was full of seats, but there was no place for Suyu. Mr. Yao Yu saw this and laughed inwardly. There will not even be a seat later, and you still want to participate? But at that moment, a calm and sweet voice floated over. "Mr. Su, if you do not mind, you can sit here." Everyone looked over, and their expressions became unnatural. It was the heartless iron constable, who did not fit in with the crowd. She brushed the long bench beside her with her sleeves, making room for Suyu. This scene once again made everyone's hearts feel very conflicted. The famous heartless iron constable was someone they had racked their brains to befriend, but she had not even responded. All they had received was her usual indifference. In the whole of the Nightless Empire, the only person who had successfully approached the heartless iron constable was Prince Lingtian. But it was said that she was also very cold to Prince Lingtian. In this sparring session, she had even refused Prince Lingtian's request to sit with her. She had occupied a corner by herself, silently reading through the files. Who knew that she would give up her seat to Suyu? This made everyone extremely depressed. What was so good about this silver-haired human? Why did it seem like all the big shots treated her specially? "Why don't you come over to my seat?" Another voice floated over. Everyone looked over, and their eyes could not help but flash with a deep sense of amazement. "Who is this? So beautiful. I think she was there when I attended the monarch's banquet. She seems to be the companion of that silver-haired human, right? What a waste of God's gift. Such a beautiful woman is actually a companion of the human race, who can't even be seen in public." It turned out that Xie Xiaoye had already anticipated that the sparring session would not go smoothly, so she had come in advance to reserve a seat. Suyu thought about it and chose to sit with the heartless iron constable. He had some questions to ask the heartless iron constable. Xie Xiaoye curled her lips. "You value a lover over a friend." But she still stood up quickly and came to the side of the heartless iron constable. She looked at her with an unfriendly gaze. Mr. Su is a decent person. Don't do anything that will cause others to misunderstand, okay?" Suyu rolled his eyes at her. Wasn't this sentence the one that would cause others to misunderstand? Unexpectedly, the heartless iron constable looked at Xie Xiaoye and calmly said, "It's not the first time we've met, so there's no need to call me Mississippi Leader Xiaoye." Suddenly, Xie Xiaoye's body stiffened, her eyes filled with disbelief. The heartless iron constable actually knew her true identity. Suyu was also secretly shocked. What keen observation skills! The three of them sat down and chatted with each other. Mr. Yao Yu looked at Suyu deeply. She was very unhappy, but she had more important matters to attend to. She invited the princess to sit down, then asked with a smile, "Princess, did your teacher not come?" Hearing that, Princess Qianyu, who was in a good mood, stiffened. She laughed dryly. My teacher. He's quite busy, haha. Her teacher was right across from her. That's a pity. Your current teacher must be a master who has reached the acme of perfection. If he were willing to come and give us pointers, it would be a great help to our training, Mr. Yao Yu said regretfully. His words stunned Princess Qianyu. She thought to herself, is he talking about Su Yu? Chapter 23:16. She really could not understand why young Master Yao Yu would have such an absurd opinion. Moreover, wasn't Su Yu right in front of him? Mr. Yao Yu's attitude toward Su Yu was the exact opposite of how he would treat a Taoist expert. As she thought of this, she looked at the corner where Su Yu was and couldn't help but roll her eyes. Su Yu was squeezed between the two women, yet he was still happily chatting with them. Could such a person be considered a Taoist expert? Young Master Yao, you must have misunderstood something. Su Yu acted as if there was no one else around. Under countless envious gazes, he asked the heartless iron detective, as the heartless iron detective who swore to rid the world of filth and establish a world of light, wouldn't it go against your conscience to sit together with two pirate leaders? The heartless iron constable's expression was tranquil. She stretched out a finger, allowing a ray of sunlight to shine on her slender jade-like finger. Instantly, a clear shadow was cast on the ground. Where there is light, there will be shadows. Under the light, there must be darkness. It is unavoidable. The heartless iron constable said, the only thing I can do is to sweep away the great evil. Otherwise, even if I have 1,000,000 incarnations, I still won't be able to fulfill my wish. Hearing this, Su Yu laughed. He had once thought that the heartless iron constable was too naive. What are you laughing at? The heartless iron constable stared at him. Su Yu nodded. You are different from what I imagined. The corners of the heartless iron constable's mouth curved into a smile as he said, I must be very pedantic in your imagination, right? Understood, Su Yu replied. Actually, he was still a little pedantic now. Did the great evil have anything to do with her? What good would it do her to punish the wicked? With this kind of energy, wouldn't it be better to cultivate alone and increase one's strength? But it is precisely because of his pedantry that he is worthy of respect, Su Yu said slowly. This was also the reason why he was willing to save the heartless iron arrester back then. Xie Xiaoye moved closer and wrinkled her nose. Aren't you afraid of being called a busybody? The heartless iron constable caressed the dossier in his hand and said indifferently, what does it have to do with me if the world condemns me? I only act according to my heart. What does it have to do with me? Xie Xiaoye's lips wriggled, but she didn't continue arguing. She felt ashamed of her own inferiority. They were both women, but one was righteous, while the other was willing to wallow in the mire with pirates. He paled in comparison. All right, thank you for your mercy, heartless iron arrester. Su Yu cupped his fists at him. The heartless iron constable said indifferently, didn't you also let a horse go? Su Yu was not surprised. With the insight and intelligence of the heartless iron arrester, he might not have realized Su Yu's good intentions at that time, but he would understand it after calming down. I have something to ask the heartless iron arrester. Please go ahead. How much do you know about golden-eyed Lang Jun? The Wuxin iron constable put away the file in his hand, and looked at Su Yu with his clear eyes. What do you want to say? I feel that this person is too shrewd and ambitious. Recently, I sensed that he appeared in the Nightless Kingdom, so I am worried. The heartless iron constable's expression became a little more solemn. He drew a soundproof enchantment around him, as if nothing had happened, and said, to be honest, I have been reading the files of the golden-eyed Lang Jun recently. I have some guesses about his intentions. It's just that I can't tell you yet. Su Yu was shocked. As expected, the Wuxin iron constable's source of information was very rich, far surpassing Su Yu's. She must have obtained a lot of secret information. If you need help, you can contact me. Thank you. Just as the conversation ended, a beautiful figure in a snow-white robe entered the West Wind Tower. Su Yu's eyes narrowed. It was Byun Hongxian. Her appearance stunned all the men present. After all, she was one of the 2 most beautiful women in the 7 unique civilizations. Mr. Yao Yu's eyes lit up. He took the initiative to step forward and said with a smile, "Fairy Byun, your presence brings light to my humble dwelling. Please take a seat." Byun Hongxian smiled and nodded. She was about to follow his gesture when she saw a familiar figure in the corner. Looking sideways, Byun Hongxian was startled, but then she revealed a look of joy. She walked forward with light steps and curtsied. "Mr. Su, it's been a long time." Everyone was stunned again. Mr. Yao Yu's smile froze on his face. "It's the same thing again. Why does every important person seem to know Su Yu?" Many people, including young Master Yao Yu, had a misconception that they were too ignorant and ill-informed and didn't know that Su Yu was actually such a famous and influential person. The monarch was very courteous to Su Yu, and Princess Qian Yu even shared a carriage with him. He had a mysterious relationship with the famous Heartless Iron Hunter, and even Byun Hongxian, who had recently arrived at the Sleepless Empire, knew Su Yu. It must be because they were too ignorant. Haha, everyone's hearts were in a mess. Su Yu's eyes were calm, and he gently nodded his chin. "How have you been?" "I'm fine. But Mr. Su, my father and I left in a hurry and didn't inform you. I didn't expect to see you again in the Sleepless Empire after 10 years. Byun Hongxian was very emotional and happy. The excitement and joy in his eyes were genuine and not concealed. "It's all right. The Pirate Alliance has been disbanded, and I have escaped. Thank you for your concern, Miss Byun." Byun Hongxian's eyes were apologetic. That day, her father's plot was exposed, and she had no choice but to take away the core members of the family. There was no time to inform anyone. She couldn't get over it. Seeing Su Yu again, one could imagine how she felt. "Can I sit next to you?" Byun Hongxian asked. Meeting Su Yu was like meeting an old friend. Su Yu glanced at the slightly crowded corner and said, "If you don't mind, I can." Byun Hongxian smiled and sat next to Xie Xiaoye, forcing her way in. Xie Xiaoye moved her butt to the side and rolled her eyes at Su Yu. Her lips wriggled as she spat out a few words that only Su Yu could hear. "You have mercy everywhere." Su Yu could only shrug to express his helplessness. He really didn't do anything to Byun Hongxian. Even their friendship was superficial, and they never had any in-depth communication. It was just that she cared more about favors, and she always remembered him. Mr. Yao Yu saw this and felt jealous. Byun Hongxian would rather squeeze with Su Yu than sit in the seat of honor. Now, the seat of honor was the center of this competition. As a result, everyone's attention was drawn away by that corner. Now, when he saw Su Yu, he felt a stinging pain in his eyes, as if Su Yu had become a thorn in his side. "Damn it! I'll make you suffer later." Mr. Yao Yu swore to himself. Su Yu had only been in the Sleepless Empire for a few days, and he had already stolen all the limelight. "Since everyone is here, then let's officially spar." Mr. Yao Yu regarded himself as the host of the competition. He said, "The main purpose of this competition is to discover each other's weaknesses. Therefore, we must be serious and not stop at a fight. In other words, there might be injuries during the competition." The crowd of geniuses nodded and had no objections. They had all suffered great hardships to get to where they were today. Getting injured in a competition was a common occurrence. What was there to be afraid of? However, they were not afraid of getting injured themselves, but they were afraid of the princess getting injured. If she got injured, the monarch would be furious, and her life would be in danger. "This time, we ask the princess to be our witness, so that you can urge us to do our best in the competition," Mr. Yao Yu said. Princess Qian Yu raised her eyebrows. If she was the supervisor, didn't that mean she couldn't fight? Didn't she come here to compete with everyone? She was about to lose her temper, but considering Su Yu's presence, she didn't dare to act rashly. She could only bear with it and nodded reluctantly. All right. Mr. Yao Yu heaved a sigh of relief. He had not intended to invite Princess Qian Yu to the competition at the West Wind Tower. He knew that he might not be a match for Princess Qian Yu. However, it would be inexcusable if he did not invite Princess Qian Yu, who was also from the Nightless Ming Palace. He could only bite the bullet and fight. In any case, he would try not to let the princess fight, lest he lose his position as the #1 person in the Nightless Ming Palace. The competition soon began. It was different from the previous competition at the princess's residence. This time both sides were going all out, and it seemed like they were going to fight for real. The battle was extremely intense. Many onlookers were amazed, and they learned a lot from the competition. Only 4 discordant figures did not pay attention to the battle from the beginning. Su Yu and the other 3 had been communicating with each other. With their strength and cultivation level, the competition between the members of the Nightless Ming Palace was not worth learning. Su Yu's main focus was on beating around the bush, trying to get some information from Biyun and Hongxian. Unfortunately, Biyun and Hongxian did not know what the golden-eyed playboy wanted to do. Including the last operation, she was suddenly informed when the plan was about to be carried out. During that time, she was only ordered to help the golden-eyed playboy with some task. Finally, Su Yu asked Biyun and Hongxian why they were going to the military camp of the Bright Palace. She was also confused, and said that she was just delivering a letter on her father's order. Just as Su Yu was about to ask more questions, he suddenly heard Mr. Yao Yu smile at the crowd and say, "The competition in the Nightless Ming Palace has temporarily come to an end, but our communication has not stopped." His tone changed, and he pointed the finger at Su Yu and the other 3 who were talking. "We are very fortunate to have the famous Mr. Su Yu here today. Why don't we ask him to come out and show us some of his skills?" Not many people knew Su Yu's name. Therefore, when Mr. Yao Yu said the words "famous," he was met with a burst of laughter. "Who is Su Yu? Why is he so famous? Should I know who he is? He should be the human youth who got out of the princess's carriage, right? He is only a half-step Taoist master, and yet he is worthy of being called famous." Yes, I guess Mr. Yao Yu is being sarcastic. Putting aside the hostility that Mr. Yao Yu had deliberately provoked, the fact that he had invited Su Yu to fight without any preparation showed that he was not respectful at all. It was agreed that it was a competition between the members of the Nightless Ming Palace. If he invited an outsider to fight, he should have at least informed him in advance, right? Moreover, they had not invited Su Yu specifically. Su Yu was disgusted, and he shot an indifferent look at him. Without any mercy, he said, "You can continue with the competition. My strength is insignificant, so I will not embarrass myself." Chapter 23:17. They had been jealous of Su Yu for a long time, and had long wanted to teach him a lesson. "Don't do that, Mr. Su. You are highly regarded by His Majesty. We have been looking forward to fighting you. Yes, I heard that you are very powerful. You should be able to defeat us effortlessly, right?" The corners of Mr. Yao Yu's mouth curled up imperceptibly. It seemed that he did not need to do anything. There would be people willing to serve him. Little did he know that the sarcasm of the Nightless Palace members was actually true. The monarch really did think highly of Su Yu because of his strength. It was effortless for him to overpower all of them here. It was just that they found it hard to believe. Xie Xiaoye sneered. What a bunch of people who overestimated themselves. Su Yu did not want to fight with them. If he did, all of them together would be no match for Su Yu's fist. The heartless Iron Constable looked at the clamoring Nightless Palace members and said, "Aren't you going to shut them up?" Su Yu said indifferently, "I can't be bothered." However, Mr. Yao Yu saw that Su Yu did not come out. He thought that Su Yu must have been frightened and did not dare to come out. He said persistently, "Mr. Su, you see, it's hard to refuse such hospitality." Swish! With a flash, Biyun Hongxian stepped forward and said, "If Mr. Su does not want to come, I will fight with you on his behalf." Not to mention the others, even Su Yu was stunned. Biyun Hongxian's strength was only half a Path Master. Most of the Nightless Palace members in front of her were Path Masters. Was she confident that she could deal with them? Mr. Yao Yu was extremely jealous. What was so good about Su Yu? Why did so many people protect him? "Fairy Biyun, please ask Mr. Su to fight in person. We are afraid that you will be hurt." Mr. Yao Yu suppressed his anger and smiled. Biyun Hongxian slowly released her desolate power and said calmly, "You know too little about Mr. Su. If you are not even as good as me, you probably can't even defeat one of his hands." The crowd, who were already jealous of Su Yu, almost exploded in anger when they heard his words. They couldn't defeat one of Su Yu's hands? There should be a limit to joking. Or rather, this was an insult to the Nightless Palace. "Since Fairy Biyun has said so, then I will shamelessly test your strength." An ordinary-looking youth walked forward. Su Yu knew this person, as he often went out to train with Princess Qianyu. He was ranked last in the Nightless Ming Palace, and was the only Nightless Ming Palace member who had not broken through to become a Dao Lord. "Please," Biyun Hongxian said lightly, "you can make your move now." The youth cast a sidelong glance at Su Yu and said coldly, "When Fairy Biyun is defeated, I want to experience the power of Mr. Su's fist." As he spoke, he released his great desolation power. At the same time, he took out all of his immortal treasures and took the initiative to attack. His attacks could not be said to be weak, and there was almost no room to dodge. However, what was unexpected was that Fairy Biyun did not even put up any defenses. She easily dodged all the attacks with just her footstep. It was as if she could predict in advance where the enemy's attack would land. The young man was stunned. He didn't believe that Fairy Biyun could easily dodge his full-strength attack. He attacked again. The result was the same. The people who had originally planned on watching Fairy Biyun be defeated gradually realized that something was wrong. After 10 consecutive moves, Fairy Biyun only dodged and did not attack. It was not until the 11th move that Fairy Biyun said indifferently, "10 moves have passed, it's my turn." She did not use any powerful divine technique. She merely took a step forward and flicked a wisp of great desolation power with her finger. But strangely, such a simple attack seemed to make the young man stupid. He swayed left and right, unable to shake off the attack. Finally, he was hit between the brows. Pow! The young man was knocked unconscious without even a scream. The strange scene caused the crowd to fall silent for a while. No one understood what had happened. Only Su Yu knew. He looked deeply at Biyun Hongxian. In the 7 unique civilizations, Biyun Hongxian had not yet inherited the bloodline of the Tianyi Empress. Today, 10 years later, she had completely mastered it. To be able to predict the enemy's trajectory in advance, the only one who could do so was the time and space domain from the Tianyi Empress. Biyun Hongxian had inherited her bloodline. After the golden-eyed Langjun, she was the second. Who else? Biyun Hongxian said indifferently, but no one dared to underestimate her anymore. "I'll go." In the Nightless Palace, Zhui Fengzi, who was ranked 5th, volunteered. Zhui Fengzi was the best at movement techniques in the Nightless Palace. Even Mr. Yao Yu, who was ranked 1st, could not compare. The former had been defeated in such a strange manner. Zhui Fengzi guessed that it was because his reaction was not agile enough. Only Su Yu knew that this person would definitely lose. In front of the space-time talent, movement techniques were nothing. Unless the enemy was too strong and could interfere with Biyun Hongxian's space-time talent, she was invincible. Both sides quickly exchanged blows. Everyone thought that Zhui Fengzi would change the situation. Who knew that he would still fall into the same strange situation as the former? No matter how fast Zhui Fengzi's movement technique was, or how cunning and incredible his attacks were, Bai Yun Hongxian could predict his attacks in advance and easily evade them. After 10 moves, she made her move. It was still a wisp of great desolation power, but Zhui Fengzi, who was known for his movement techniques, could not shake it off. In the end, he was sent flying. Next. While everyone was shocked, Bai Yun Hongxian said calmly, "Now, who would dare to make another move?" They did not even know how Bai Yun Hongxian had won. Mr. Yao Yu's face was solemn and he felt threatened. There were indeed crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Princess Qianyu was one thing, but even Bai Yun Hongxian, who did not reveal herself, was so terrifying. He thought to himself that if they really fought, he might not even have a 50% chance of winning. For a moment, the whole place was eerily quiet. The members of the Nightless Palace who had been clamoring just now all quieted down. Since no one wants to challenge you, then let the challenge against Mr. Su end here. If you are not even as good as me, there is really no need to waste his energy. After saying that, Bai Yun Hongxian's indifference was replaced by a bashful smile as she returned to sit beside Su Yu. Su Yu smiled bitterly. "I am not as powerful as Miss Bai Yun thinks I am." Of course, he was being modest. Although the space-time talent was powerful, Su Yu had also mastered the law of time and the space domain, which was the nemesis of Bai Yun Hongxian. Mr. Su is unpredictable and can often do things that ordinary people cannot. Although I have improved in the past 10 years, Mr. Su's improvement must be even greater, Bai Yun Hongxian said calmly. Xie Xiaoye muttered to herself. Bai Yun Hongxian was right. The Su Yu of 10 years ago and the Su Yu of 10 years later were two completely different levels. I think so too. The strange thing was that the heartless Iron Constable also said, looking at Su Yu with a meaningful gaze. Among people of the same age, Su Yu was the only one who had defeated her. Moreover, she had a feeling that Su Yu had not used his full strength at that time. Humph! Mr. Yao Yu snorted coldly, feeling extremely displeased. What should have been a joyous and harmonious sparring session had ended in such a sorry state because of Su Yu. The members of the Nightless Palace parted on bad terms. Walking down the West Wind Tower, Zhui Fengzi said, "Brother Yao Yu, are we just going to let it go like this? That Su Yu is relying on his affinity with women to look down on us. He is really abominable." When had Su Yu looked down on them? Were they the ones who were jealous and unable to calm down? What else? Yao Yu glared at him. Unless you also have such affinity with women. He was extremely jealous. Why did so many powerful women regard Su Yu as an important friend? Why was he, the #1 heaven ruler of the Nightless Empire, unwilling to get close to him? This was really unfair. I am not as handsome as that human, Zhui Fengzi said sourly. In terms of appearance, none of the people of the Nightless Palace could compare to Su Yu. Pretty boy. Just looking at him is infuriating. This is really hard to swallow. Mr. Yao Yu was still older than them, so he quickly calmed down and said, "The future is long and there will be plenty of opportunities. For example, the upcoming friendly exchange between the Nightless Empire and the Light Palace. At that time, strong people will gather, and I am afraid no woman will be able to protect him in time." Hearing this, everyone's eyes lit up, as if they could already see Su Yu's swollen face. They all smiled knowingly. At the West Wind Tower, the four of them chatted for a while, and Su Yu felt that he could no longer learn more from Bai Yun Hongxian, so he got up and said goodbye. "We will meet again next time." Bai Yun Hongxian hurriedly said, "The friendly exchange between the younger generation of the Nightless Empire and the Light Palace, are you going?" She enjoyed chatting with Su Yu. She was very satisfied with his strength and character. "Go ahead." Su Yu looked at Princess Qianyu, who was waiting for him in the distance. If he did not go, no one would be able to suppress the group of people from the Light Palace. "All right, then we will meet in 2 months." Bai Yun Hongxian left, satisfied. The heartless Iron Constable took the scroll and left without looking back, saying, "See you in 2 months. What about you? Will you follow me to the princess mansion or the palace? Su Yu asked Xie Xiaoye. Xie Xiaoye looked at the princess and said mischievously, I think I will not disturb you and the beautiful princess. Su Yu was speechless. He felt that Xie Xiaoye seemed to have become a lot more lively after putting on this beautiful disguise. In the past, Xie Xiaoye always gave people the feeling of being mature, but now she looked a little like a young girl. I said, take off the disguise. With my current identity, it should be no problem for the Nightless Empire to withdraw the wanted order for you. He could not let Xie Xiaoye wear this mask all the time, could he? Xie Xiaoye stopped, turned around, and poked her fair and tender cheek with her index finger. She said, Oh? Isn't my face beautiful now? To be honest, it was beautiful. It was a rare kind of beauty. Su Yu had only seen it a few times in his life. But it was a pity that it was just a disguise. Beautiful. Then why do you want to take it off? Xie Xiaoye asked with a smile. Su Yu waved his hand. Suit yourself, I was just saying. When he finished speaking, he walked away and returned to the princess mansion with Princess Qianyu. Xie Xiaoye looked at Su Yu's back, touched her extremely elastic face, and giggled. You have good taste, you know that I am beautiful. Chapter 23:18. Princess Qianyu was unhappy as she boarded the carriage. This sparring session had nothing to do with her. She had come all this way for nothing. Gold will shine sooner or later, why are you so anxious? Su Yu said, seeing through her worries. Princess Qianyu did not dare lose her temper in front of Su Yu. I just don't want to be left behind. The friendly sparring session between the two factions is coming up. As the princess of the Nightless Empire, I cannot bring shame to the Empire. She still cares about the Empire? He had never seen it before, thinking that she was just stubborn and unruly. Left behind? You think too much. With my guidance, your abilities are enough to crush any one of them. They are no match for you, Su Yu comforted her. Princess Qianyu rolled her eyes, thinking, how dare he say such things. The others in the Nightless Palace might be easy to deal with, but Mr. Yao Yu was extremely powerful. In their last fight, he had to give in to Mr. Yao Yu to barely beat him. Of course, Princess Qianyu did not dare refute Su Yu's words. She nodded like a chick pecking at rice. Yes, Teacher Su is right. I have learned my lesson. Su Yu nodded slightly. Suddenly, his brows twitched. He had felt a hint of hostility without warning. At that moment, Su Yu suddenly opened the carriage's curtains and cast a sharp gaze outside. He saw a beautiful woman hurriedly avert her gaze, turning to squeeze into the crowd. It's her. Su Yu was surprised. Su Yu knew this woman. They had received an invitation from the mysterious old man at the peak of the snowy mountain. Her name seemed to be Xianyin. There had been too many people at the previous banquet, and Su Yu had not noticed if Xianyin was there. Now she had appeared in the Nightless Empire, casting a hostile gaze at Su Yu. Interesting. Su Yu smiled. It was likely that Su Yu's actions in the Bright Light Palace had been discovered by Xianyin, which was why she hated Su Yu so much. But she should be glad that she had not done anything out of line. Otherwise, she would not have been faced with two glares, but with a fatal blow. Xianyin squeezed into the crowd, watching as the carriage slowly disappeared into the distance. She clenched her fists in frustration. Damn it, my enemy is right in front of me, but I can't act recklessly, Xianyin said in a low voice. News came from the Bright Palace that a silver-haired human named Su Yu had wreaked havoc in the Bright Palace. Not only did he defeat all the heaven's favorites of the Palace of Light, but he also disguised himself as Wang Zhiyang, trespassed into the Mist Forest, and won first place in the deer chase, causing the emissary of light to lose face. As a member of the Light Envoys, Xianyin could not tolerate Su Yu's behavior. Just now, when she was outside the West Wind Tower secretly gathering information about the Nightless Ming Palace's abilities, she accidentally discovered that Su Yu was present. She decided to follow him and wait for an opportunity to exact her revenge. Who would have expected that Su Yu's senses would be so sharp that he would detect her in advance? Su Yu, I can't do anything to you if you hide in the crowd, but you better pray that you don't fall behind. Even though Xianyin knew that Su Yu had the power to crush Kong Chu, she was still confident that she could take revenge on him. It was clear that Xianyin was quite confident. She turned around and came to a remote alley, returning to her nearest hiding place. Unexpectedly, when he pushed open the door of the cave, there was a twisted black shadow waiting for a long time. The shadow exuded an evil aura, and its pair of scarlet eyes appeared particularly horrifying in the shadows. It's been a long time, Miss Xianyin. Xianyin immediately recognized that hoarse voice. Her expression changed drastically as she sucked in a breath of cold air and said, "You are hunting shadow?" Thank you for your kindness, Miss Xianyin, for still remembering me. Xuanin's expression was grave. How could she not remember hunting shadow? He was a powerful martial artist of the same generation who had once trampled on Xian Hua. He was a genius who could compete with the Lady of Destiny. Not only that, he was vicious and merciless, and was not easy to get along with. If he was in a bad mood, he would kill for fun. Her hair stood on end, and her muscles tensed, ready to escape at any moment. Don't worry, I didn't come all the way to the Nightless Empire for you. If it's not for me, why are you looking for me? I'm looking for you because I need you to do something for me. Xianyin slowly retreated, coldly saying, "What if I say no? I never allow anyone to say no." As she finished speaking, the twisted shadow, which was clearly still far away, wrapped around Xianyin in the blink of an eye and slowly merged into her body. Stop! Xianyin turned pale with fright. The power of the Tao Lord in her body constantly erupted, attempting to force the shadow out of her body. But the shadow was not obstructed, and slowly merged into Xuanin's body. A moment later, Xianyin was lying on the ground, drenched in sweat. Her entire body twitched and she stammered, "No," until she could not say a word. She, who had been lying on the ground for a long time, suddenly stood up, an evil expression on her face. What a troublesome body! Its resistance is too strong and it wastes a lot of my energy. But this body is enough. Xianyin smiled strangely. Time flowed like water. 2 months passed in a flash. But in the hearts of many martial artists of the Nightless Empire, it was as if 2 years had passed, and they felt that 2 months was exceptionally long. The Nightless Empire and the Light Palace, who had always been hostile, broke the ice for the first time after so many years. Finally, the emissary of the Light Palace led a team over. They were led by a few strong men from the Light Palace, including a deputy palace master. Coincidentally, Su Yu knew this deputy palace master. It was Deputy Palace Master Lu. Among the emissaries of light, the leader was Xian Hua. That incomparably mysterious woman of destiny still had not appeared. This greatly disappointed many martial artists who had been filled with anticipation. After settling down in the Nightless Empire, the people of the Light Palace temporarily stayed in the monarch's side palace to let them rest after a long and arduous journey. The exchange between the two sides was scheduled to begin in 10 days. Suddenly, the imperial city of the Nightless Empire seemed to be reinvigorated. Whether it was the streets or the tea-houses, everyone was enthusiastically discussing the Light Palace emissaries of the Light Palace. Among them, the most frequently discussed was naturally Xian Hua. Not only was she beautiful, but she was also extremely powerful. Many male martial artists regarded her as their dream lover. Apart from that, they were most concerned about the outcome of the exchange. Although it was called an exchange, they were very clear that the main purpose was still to learn from each other. Most people of the Nightless Empire were extremely pessimistic. Based on previous exchanges, the Nightless Palace was far inferior to the Light Palace. While the people were discussing the Light Palace, the group of emissaries of the Light Palace were listening to the intelligence from Xian Yin in a secret room. The members of the Nightless Palace, apart from that young Master Yao Yu who needs to be taken seriously, the rest are all ordinary people, nothing to worry about, Xianyin said. Most of the emissaries of light looked relaxed, and did not look nervous from the beginning. Xianyin's intelligence was also not beyond their expectations. No matter how many years had passed, the younger generation of the Nightless Empire was so vulnerable. Sigh. I really don't know what the great palace lord is thinking. Why did he choose to cooperate with the Nightless Empire? Jing Yuan clasped his hands behind his head, leaning against the wall, full of reluctance. Yang Hua was also very puzzled. The overall strength of the Sword Seeker Pavilion is far higher than that of the Nightless Empire. If we cooperate with them, we will benefit more in the Glaze Ancient Cave in the future. But if we cooperate with the Nightless Empire, won't they only drag us down? Even Xian Hua did not understand the intentions of the great palace lord. When she learned that the Glaze Ancient Cave was about to open, she expected that the Light Palace would choose a force to cooperate with. She thought it would be the Sword Seeker Pavilion that was on par with the Light Palace. She did not expect it to be the Nightless Empire. It was not that she looked down on the Nightless Empire, but that the Nightless Empire really did not have any talented people. Cooperating with them in the Glaze Ancient Cave would only drag them down. Forget it, this is the decision of the great palace lord. We can only obey. Xian Hua made the final decision. From today onwards, do not show any signs of regret, lest it affect our cooperation. The other emissaries did not dare to disobey her. However, it was difficult to change the contempt they felt for the Nightless Empire. Is there any other important intelligence? Xian Hua asked pointedly. Xian Yi nodded and said, Su Yu is in the Imperial City. What? The people who had been lazing around suddenly became alert. For many months, the name Su Yu was like a nightmare that could not be dispelled. No matter where they went, the martial artists of the Light Palace would point fingers at the emissaries of light, saying that they were incompetent and that they had let the people of the Nightless Empire down. At the most serious point, there was a larger demonstration, demanding that the emissaries of light be removed and that they stop wasting the resources of the Light Palace. This was the most torturous time for the emissaries of light. This time, they were heading to the Nightless Empire to participate in the exchange, largely carrying the hopes of the martial artists of the Light Palace, to defeat Su Yu and reclaim the honor of being the emissaries of light. Jing Yuan and the others looked at Xian Hua. Among all of them, only Xian Hua could suppress Su Yu. All hope rested on Xian Hua. Xian Hua's eyes flickered as she asked, What is Su Yu's identity? Nothing at all. He is not from the Nightless Empire, nor is he a member of the Nightless Empire. Xian Hua asked again, Will he participate in this exchange? This probably not, Xianyin said. Su Yu had no interest in participating in the exchange of the West Wind Tower. He was completely uninvolved. Hearing this, everyone heaved a long sigh of relief, the pressure on their bodies lessening. If Su Yu participated in this exchange of pointers, they would be humiliated once again. At the Princess Mansion, Su Yu was training Princess Qian Yu in an orderly manner, not at all affected by the arrival of the emissaries of light. After months of training, Princess Qian Yu's 9 divine Dharma powers were much more solid than before. If the 9 divine Dharma powers attacked with all their might, Su Yu would have to take them seriously in order to withstand them. He guessed that among the emissaries of light, apart from Xian Hua, no one else could defeat Princess Qian Yu. How much do you want to be the champion of this exchange? Su Yu asked. Princess Qian Yu looked at Su Yu strangely. Isn't that obvious? Who doesn't want to be the champion and bring glory to the Nightless Empire? Teacher Su, I want it very much, Princess Qian Yu said shyly. Su Yu thought for a moment, then took out a round, pitch-black pearl. Take it. Refine it within 10 days and learn how to use it. This was the Evil King Pearl, which could replicate all of the enemy's domains and divine technique. If there was anything that could restrain Xian Hua's strange ability to turn illusions into reality, it would be the evil King Pearl. For me! Don't get your hopes up, Su Yu said impatiently. After the exchange, remember to return it to me. This item belonged to the evil dragon, and he had no right to give it to anyone else. To be honest, Princess Qian Yu was not interested in the so-called treasure. She was the dignified Princess Qian Yu, the owner of the peerless treasure of the Nightless Empire. How could she be interested in Su Yu's gift? However, she did not dare disobey Su Yu's orders, so she obediently sat down to refine the pearl. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. The friendly exchange between the youths of the Nightless Empire and the Palace of Light began. In the training field, Princess Qian Yu fondled the evil King Pearl. She found this treasure to be amazing. With this treasure in hand, she could do whatever she wanted in the colored glaze civilization. Teacher Su, thank you, Princess Qian Yu finally said obediently, thinking to herself, this is your compensation for my months of suffering. Su Yu looked at the time and said, let's set off as soon as possible. You are not going? Su Yu said, I will observe in secret. You must perform well. All right. Princess Qian Yu was like a free bird. She immediately headed for the Heavenly Gate Plaza of the palace. When she arrived, all the members of the Nightless Palace were already there. In contrast, none of the emissaries of light had arrived. Princess, these emissaries of light are really arrogant, Mr. Yao Yu grumbled. Princess Qian Yu did not mind. Arrogance is determined by one's ability. It is not about who comes late, understand? Princess is right. The crowd waited patiently. It was only when the appointed time was almost up that the people of the Palace of Light finally arrived on time. Under the lead of Deputy Palace Master Lu, Xian Hua and the others were dressed in dazzling uniforms, stepping into the plaza majestically. Each of them was in high spirits and had extraordinary confidence, standing out from the masses. In contrast, the members of the Nightless Palace were lacking in confidence. Their demeanor was clearly inferior to the other party. This scene made the people who had come to observe secretly sigh. The Nightless Palace was inferior to the emissaries of light in all aspects. Xian Hua and the others were calm, even a little arrogant as they sat opposite the members of the Nightless Palace. Under their powerful auras, the members of the Nightless Palace were even more pressured. Only Princess Qian Yu, who had grown up in the royal family, was not affected by their auras. She said gracefully, welcome, emissaries of light from the Palace of Light. I welcome you on behalf of the royal family. Jing Yuan nodded slightly, sizing up the members of the Nightless Palace one by one, muttering in unison, a mix of good and bad. Although his voice was soft, the members of the Nightless Palace were mostly at the level of Tao masters. How could it be hidden from their ears? Immediately they lost face. They were angry and furious, but did not dare to act up. It was Xian Hua who looked at the big picture, saying indifferently, on behalf of the Palace of Light, I thank you for your warm reception. Princess Qian Yu clapped her hands. Mr. Yao Yu and the others immediately took out the crystal badges that the Nightless Palace's Lian Yu had rushed to make. There were a total of 18, one for each person, symbolizing the friendship and unity between the two sides. For this, the members of the Nightless Palace had given up their cultivation to specially prepare this gift. This is a small gift that we have carefully prepared. I hope that the emissaries will like it. Mr. Yao Yu laughed heartily. Seeing the crystal badges, the expressions of the emissaries of light turned slightly strange. Jing Yuan said with a faint smile, oh, so the Nightless Palace has also prepared a gift. Coincidentally, we have also prepared a gift for everyone. There was a hint of mockery in his smile. Chapter 23:19. Zheng Yuan and Yang Hua each took out a spatial storage artifact and took out 9 jade bottles. The bottle was filled with a transparent spiritual liquid, but one couldn't tell what it was from looking at it. Xian Hua said indifferently, before we came, we specially prepared a gift for everyone. I hope you will accept it. She pushed the jade bottle over. Young Master Yao Yu was puzzled. Jing Yuan's undisguised mockery gave him a bad feeling. Was this spirit liquid very special? However, he could only bite the bullet and open one of the jade bottles. The astonishing spirit qi he had imagined did not appear, nor did the special fragrance of any spirit liquid appear. A bottle of water? The Nightless Temple members were stunned when they opened it, not understanding the radiant envoy's intentions. Was he deliberately humiliating them? Young Master Yao Yu felt indignant. He knew that the radiant envoy looked down on the Nightless Temple, but wasn't it too insulting to give them a bottle of water? He might as well not give them anything at all. Just as he was about to flare up, he suddenly sensed a weak aura. He could not help but be shocked. This is Genesis Chi? Although it was extremely weak, close to nothing, he had still sensed it. He immediately picked up the jade bottle and brought it to his nose to sniff it seriously. An uncontrollable ecstasy appeared on his face. This was Genesis Chi that had a price but no supply. One could only obtain it through luck. It was not something that could be bought with money. Young Master Yao Yu's family was extremely large and wealthy, but he had never had the chance to obtain Genesis Chi in centuries. This was the first time he had obtained it since he started cultivating. Rumor had it that Genesis Chi had an unimaginable effect on domains. He had longed for it for a long time. Thus, he could not help but reveal a hint of ecstasy. However, he was still able to maintain his composure and immediately hid his expression. However, the other Nightless Temple members did not have such composure. They were all overjoyed, and a few could not help but laugh out loud. Young Master Yao Yu's heart skipped a beat. He immediately understood the meaning of Zheng Yuan's mocking expression. The gifts they thought they had carefully prepared were nothing in front of the Genesis Chi. Just the gifts they had given were enough to make the Nightless Temple fall behind. Looking at the Nightless Temple members' reactions, they were like country bumpkins entering the city and being rewarded with steamed buns by the landlord's deputy young master. Even young Master Yao Yu himself felt ashamed of the performance of the Nightless Temple's members, and he wished he could find a hole to hide in. "Thank you for the gift, Emissary of Light," young Master Yao Yu said hurriedly. His voice faintly contained an intimidating power, causing a few of the Nightless Palace's members, who had sunk into ecstasy, to come back to their senses. Only then did they realize that they had made a fool of themselves. They awkwardly put away the jade bottles and became serious. However, many of the people in the Imperial City felt humiliated. Does the future of our Nightless Kingdom have to depend on these people? Sigh. Let's go, I don't have the face to continue watching. It's better to suggest to His Majesty as soon as possible to cancel the so-called Nightless Hall. Other than making a fool of himself, it has no expertise at all. As the citizens of the Nightless Kingdom, they all felt ashamed. The performance of the members of the Nightless Temple was really too embarrassing. Princess Qian Yu was also infuriated. Really, all of them were usually so arrogant, looking down on this and that. But now that they had something good, they were acting like country bumpkins. She also felt that she had lost face. Xian Hua said calmly, "No need to thank me. It's just a small token of my appreciation." It was really a small token of my appreciation. Recently, a batch of extremely rich primordial qi had appeared in the Palace of Light. The entire Palace of Light fell into a frenzy of competition. Several envoys of light paid together and joined in the fierce competition. Finally, they bought 100 drops with hundreds of millions of Dao coins. According to the amount they paid, the primordial qi spiritual liquid was distributed. But in the end, there was only 1 drop left. They diluted it 9 times and gave it to the members of the Nightless Temple. Looking at their shameful appearance, Xian Hua could not help but waver. Was she really going to cooperate with such people? She really could not accept it. However, the most important thing was still strength. Let's see how strong they were first. After a series of exchanges, the topic gradually shifted to sparring. Finally, it was Zheng Yuan. He put down his teacup and said, "The last time our Palace of Light and the Nightless Temple sparred was decades ago. Since we are fortunate to cooperate today, why don't we spar and improve our relationship?" Young Master Yao Yu's fighting spirit rose in his heart. In the battle back then, the Nightless Temple could be said to have suffered a crushing defeat. As the number one person of the Nightless Temple, he did not even last 3 moves against the envoys of light called Kong Chu before suffering a crushing defeat. All these years, he had been diligently cultivating at all times, striving to raise his cultivation to the next level. All so that one day, he could wash away the humiliation he suffered back then. "That's exactly what I want." Young Master Yao Yu's fighting spirit surged. Xian Hua nodded. "All right, then let's have a spar. Friendship first, competition second." No one would believe what she said. How could the two factions not care about the competition when they were of the same generation? Under the arrangements of both sides, the plaza soon became empty for sparring. "I'll go for the first match." Jing Yuan smiled disdainfully and volunteered to go up. Jing Yuan was ranked 8th in the Palace of Light and was considered the weakest. Young Master Yao Yu secretly looked at him coldly. If there was one who mocked him the most, it would be Jing Yuan. "Qin Fun, you go," Young Master Yao Yu said. Qin Fun was ranked 7th in the Nightless Temple. Although he had just become a Dao Lord, his foundation was solid. He had condensed a domain and a Dao treasure, so his strength was not bad. "Give this person a slap and make him shut his foul mouth." Young Master Yao Yu secretly sent a voice transmission. Qin Fun nodded without batting an eyelid. He looked at Jing Yuan with an unfriendly gaze. Young Master Yao Yu was not the only one who wanted to slap Jing Yuan. "Oh? I suggest you send someone ranked higher. Otherwise, the outcome will be ugly." Jing Yuan held his hands behind his back as he wore a faint smile. Qin Fun showed no fear. "It's more than enough to deal with you." Walala, the sound of flowing water lingered around Qin Fun. He had clearly activated his domain. Jing Yuan chuckled. "You even condensed your domain. Not bad." With that said, the scene of the 10,000 mountains appeared beside Jing Yuan. "Be careful, brother Qin Fun." Jing Yuan sneered and suddenly activated his domain. The 10,000 mountains domain came crashing down. Qin Fun was not to be outdone. He controlled his domain to attack. The two scenes intertwined, and the river scene was crushed inch by inch. Without being able to put up any resistance, he was completely crushed. Qin Fun spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted. In just a single exchange, Qin Fun was as weak as a piece of paper. He was knocked out on the spot. Many of the onlookers covered their faces and shook their heads, feeling extremely embarrassed. The difference in strength between the Radiance Envoy and the Nightless Temple's member was like heaven and earth. The Nightless Temple's members wore ugly expressions. They had never expected Qin Fun to win, but wasn't this defeat way too tragic? What made them even more ashamed was that the Radiance Envoy's side did not cheer or rejoice in victory. Instead, they were extremely calm. That calmness meant that they felt victory was only right. If Jing Yuan had been defeated, they would have been surprised. Was the difference between them really that great? The Nightless Temple's members were extremely indignant. "I already said that it's best to send someone ranked higher. Otherwise, it will be very tragic. Unfortunately, you didn't listen." Jing Yuan hid his hands in his sleeves as he said with a look of regret. Young Master Yao Yu's eyes turned cold. "Do you still wish to continue challenging?" "Of course." Jing Yuan wore a fearless look. "All right. Zhan Lai, you're up." Zhan Lai was the 5th-ranked member of the Nightless Temple. He had been a Dao Lord for some years, and his overall strength far exceeded Qin Fun's. "Yes." Zhan Lai walked forward and stared at Jing Yuan with his bell-like eyes. "Do you dare fight me?" "Hee, I'm afraid you will lose too miserably," Jing Yuan said calmly. "Then, let's begin." Zhan Lai took out an extremely heavy battle axe from his back and stabbed it into the ground, causing the entire square to tremble. Jingyuan pursed his lips. Dao artifact? Alright, let's compete in Dao artifact. He took out a spiked mace that swirled with layers of lightning as it flickered. Ha! Zhan Lai roared as he stepped forward and cleaved down with his battle axe. Jingyuan said contemptuously, "A spar isn't about who roars louder and wins." Bang! He raised his spiked mace and counterattacked. Jingyuan, who looked much weaker, managed to withstand the battle axe. Following that, the two of them exchanged blows with their Dao artifacts, exchanging more than 100 blows. Finally, when both sides were somewhat drained, Zheng Yuan retreated and said with a smile, "I admit defeat. The Nightless Temple has many experts. I, Zheng Yuan, am far inferior to them." How was that admitting defeat willingly? It was clearly mockery. None of the people from the Nightless Ming Temple felt victorious. The 5th-ranked genius of the Nightless Temple could not do anything to the 8th-ranked genius after more than 100 rounds. What kind of victory was that? Zhan Lai clenched his fists and retreated with humiliation in his eyes. He lowered his head at young Master Yao Yu. "I'm useless." Although they had won, they were still defeated. Young Master Yao Yu suppressed his anger and said, "Who will you send next?" Swoosh, a figure walked out from the crowd. It was the 7th-ranked Yang Hua. "Me, of course." Yang Hua crossed his arms and smiled, his eyes filled with coldness. Young Master Yao Yu felt humiliated. The 8th-ranked genius had fallen, and the 7th-ranked genius was going to fight? If their people were to be defeated, they would truly lose all face. "Alright, Fang Wan, you're up." Fang Wan was the 3rd-ranked genius of the Nightless Temple. She had recently broken through to the family head level. Although she did not have the time to comprehend it, it was more than enough to deal with Yang Hua, who was only an ordinary Dao Lord. Fang Wan walked forward with a cold expression and said, "I don't want to bully the weak. You can choose to step down." Was there any suspense in a battle between a family head and an ordinary Dao Lord? Yang Hua remained calm. "There's no need for that. I recently felt that I had some progress in my cultivation and wanted to challenge a family head level Dao Lord. Miss Fang Wan, please spar with me." Chapter 23:20. "I'm just afraid that you can't afford to cultivate it." Fang Wan released her incomparably thick Daolord's energy and displayed a crushing momentum towards Yang Hua. Yang Hua, on the other hand, was not afraid at all. He slowly activated his domain. His domain was much more solid than it had been during the deer hunt. This was also the reason why Yang Hua dared to challenge a Dao Lord who was at the level of a family head. "Let's begin." Yang Hua took the initiative to attack. Fang Wan had used the power of a Dao Lord, which wasn't stable yet, to clash head-on against the other party's domain. She had thought that she would be able to break through it easily, but who would have thought that not only would she not be able to break through it, she would even be enveloped by the other party's domain. Fang Wan was surprised. The sturdiness of the other party's domain was almost on par with the family head's. Bang! His opponent's domain unleashed its might, and waves of terrifying might descended upon his body, causing his body to shake violently. In a moment of carelessness, a trace of blood flowed out of the corner of Fang Wan's mouth. He was furious. This was a great humiliation. In a head-on battle, a Patriarch-level Dao Lord was actually inferior to an ordinary Dao Lord. Scram! Fang Wan released her domain. However, as soon as it was released, Yang Hua immediately withdrew his domain and retreated. He cupped his fists and smiled. "Impressive, impressive. As expected of the Nightless Palace's Dao Lord, you are indeed formidable. I admire you, I admit defeat." Everyone could hear the sarcasm in his words. Fang Wan had lost all her face. Her heart was filled with anger, but she couldn't let it out. She could only say to the others, "Who else wants to fight, come out." She took a closer look and found that the 6th-ranked Starfall and 5th-ranked Wang Zhuyang were not there. Only Xian Yin, who was ranked 4th, was here. Xian Yin sighed helplessly when Fong Wan's gaze landed on her. Then I'll have to take action. As if she was walking on clouds, she casually walked forward and indifferently said, I'll let you have one move. Let? Fong Wan felt a stabbing pain in her heart. She shook her head and said, There's no need. If I win, it would be an unfair victory. Xian Yin said indifferently, All right, then let's begin. This time, Fong Wan did not dare to be careless. After all, the other party was ranked fourth among the radiant emissaries. His strength should be extraordinary. She took out her domain and Dao tool at the same time, preparing to fight seriously. Unexpectedly, Xian Yin didn't move at all. Instead, she softly spat out the word, suppress. An incomparably huge, subdue character descended from the sky as if the sky was collapsing. Such a strange domain shocked Fong Wan. She hurriedly used her domain to resist the Dao artifact. However, the suppress character completely ignored the attack and directly pressed down on Fong Wan's body, suppressing her to the ground and preventing her from moving. Xian Yin sighed softly. I'm giving you a chance to attack first. If she made a move, Fong Wan would not even have the chance to make a move. Instantly, the whole place fell into a dead silence. There was only one word in everyone's mind. Strong. They were both Dao Lords of the same level, but the difference in strength between them was like the difference between heaven and earth. Next. Xian Yin waved her sleeves and swept Fong Wan out of the arena. She looked at the members of the Nightless Ming Palace. Young Master Yao Yu gritted his teeth and stepped forward. I'll do it. Encountering such a powerful enemy, apart from him, who else could be a match for him? Xian Yin glanced at him and said, Do you need me to give you a handicap? Young Master Yao Yu said solemnly, There's no need. As the number one person in the Nightless Ming Temple, he had his own dignity. Suppress. Xian Yin calmly spat out a single word. Just like before, the incomparably huge suppress character descended from the sky and suppressed young Master Yao Yu. Young Master Yao Yu's expression was extremely grave as he took out a 3,000-meter-long sword that flickered with 7 colors. Heaven extinguishing 7 swords technique. Young Master Yao Yu's domain was sword technique. The 3,000-meter-long sword swept through the sky and instantly shattered the descending suppress character. At the same time, the sword energy headed straight for Xian Yin. The eyes of the Nightless Ming Palace members and the spectating Imperial Kingdom figures lit up, as expected of the number one Nightless Ming Palace. However, Xian Yin unhurriedly spat out another word. Block. A block character appeared in front of him. The powerful sword energy struck the block character and was immediately bounced back. Before young Master Yao Yu could continue, Xian Yin spat out another word. Trap. Immediately, a huge trap character trapped young Master Yao Yu in the center. Moreover, the trap character continued to shrink, binding him. Young Master Yao Yu unleashed several sword strikes in a row and finally managed to shatter the trap character. But immediately after, Xian Yin used another suppress character. The suppress character was even more powerful than the suppress character. Young Master Yao Yu's 7 consecutive sword strikes were unable to shatter it. In the end, he was suppressed on the battlefield, unable to even move a finger. Xian Yin did not even pant as she calmly said, You've regressed. In the past, young Master Yao Yu could still defeat her and fight against Kong Chu. But now, he couldn't even get past her. Young Master Yao Yu's heart was filled with intense unwillingness. His strength had clearly improved by a lot, and he had clearly wanted to wash away his previous humiliation. But who would have thought that he was inferior to the person he had defeated that day and was defeated in just a few moves? In truth, it wasn't that he had regressed, but that the Radiant Envoy's strength had improved too quickly. Xian Yin looked at the remaining Nightless Ming Palace members and said, The sparring has ended here, right? Even the number one young Master Yao Yu had suffered a crushing defeat. Who else could go up? The Nightless Ming Palace members fell silent. No one dared to step forward. Even Princess Qianyu, who was ranked number 2. She had always believed that she was inferior to young Master Yao Yu. Even he had lost so miserably, let alone her. There was no hope of victory. Seeing that no one from the Nightless Ming Palace dared to step forward, Zheng Yuan's lips curled. Envoy Xian Yin, enough is enough. You should at least give the Nightless Ming Palace members a fig leaf. If you beat them all, how are we going to work together in the future? Yang Hua also laughed. That's right, we are going to work together in a friendly manner. We shouldn't make our relationship too stiff. Let's give them some face. The two of them spoke one after another, hurting the pride of the Nightless Ming Palace members. They found it hard to withstand the humiliation, but their strength was inferior, so they could only lower their heads and mock them. At that moment, an indifferent sigh reverberated across the plaza. How disappointing! That voice. Zheng Yuan and Yang Hua, who had been chatting, froze, their eyes filled with fear. That voice was the nightmare that had plagued them for more than 2 months. Even if it had been thousands of years, they would never forget that voice. The calm expression of Xian Hua suddenly changed. Her eyes turned solemn as she shouted, "You've finally come." She had expected that even though Su Yu would not participate in the sparring, he would definitely observe them in secret. Kong Chu, Huang Yang, Qing Ling, and the others sat upright, looking extremely solemn as they observed their surroundings. There was no longer any trace of the arrogant attitude they had a moment ago. Sensing the huge change in the expressions of the Envoy of Light and the others, the people of the Nightless Ming Palace could not help but be stunned. What's going on? The Envoy of Light seemed to be very afraid of the speaker. Moreover, the voice sounded somewhat familiar to them. Mr. Yao Yu was suspicious. Who is this person? The voice is nearby, but I can't detect his presence. It must be some powerful expert, right? Teacher Su. It was only when Princess Qianyu muttered in a low voice that Mr. Yao Yu shuddered. Is it the teacher of that powerful expert of yours? Princess Qianyu was speechless. What's wrong with Mr. Yao Yu? He keeps saying that the person with the surname Su is a powerful expert. Yes. Princess Qianyu nodded. She was about to say something when suddenly, the space around Princess Qianyu folded without warning. The next moment, even the throne she was sitting on was teleported to the center of the plaza. Instead, its original location was replaced by the space on the stage. Hiss. Space replacement. Who is it? Space replacement. This is an almighty expert of the space realm. How could someone have comprehended the space realm? The entire plaza erupted into a frenzy of shock. Mr. Yao Yu was so excited that he could not speak coherently. The Nightless Empire actually has such an almighty expert. Fang Wan, Zhan Lai, and the other palace members trembled with excitement. Such a legendary almighty expert of the space realm had actually been born in the Nightless Empire. The group of envoys of light was terrified. Space realm? Is it that person? Impossible. How old is he? How could he comprehend the space realm? No, that's impossible. That's absolutely impossible. The envoys of light were all incoherent, unable to believe what they were seeing. Xian Hua's pupils shrank to the size of needles, and she could not help but gasp. Su Yu was a space realm expert. But not only was she not afraid, her fighting spirit was even more aroused. Among her peers, apart from the destined woman, there was actually such a peerless and unparalleled person. If she did not fight him, she would regret it for the rest of her life. Only Princess Qianyu looked to her left and right with a perplexed expression. As my student, you do not even have the courage to step forward and fight. How disappointing! Su Yu's dissatisfied voice echoed in the sky. If you do not win first place when we return, I will send you into that space to train again. Ah, I don't want to. Princess Qianyu's mind was occupied by fear. Like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, she stood up with a whoosh and hurriedly said to Xianyin, "Hurry, hurry, let's start." The training in that space had become an unforgettable trauma for her. Xian Yin looked at Princess Qian Yu's expression strangely and asked, "Are you sure you want to fight me?" Her opponent was the princess of the Nightless Empire, and it was said that she was doted on by the emperor. If she were to accidentally injure her, the consequences would be dire. "Why do you have so much nonsense to say?" Princess Qian Yu was afraid that Su Yu would throw her into the space again in a fit of anger. Seeing that Xian Yin was dawdling, she immediately attacked. "I don't care about you anymore." In an instant, 9 divine Dharma powers appeared. She rarely used her divine Dharma powers in front of outsiders. Currently, apart from the members of the Nightless Temple, only Su Yu and the Emperor knew that she had the 9 divine body. Therefore, when he used it all at once, everyone was stunned for a moment. Xian Yin did not understand what it was, but she subconsciously uttered the word block in front of her. She assumed that even Mr. Yao Yu, who was in first place, could not break through the word, let alone Princess Qian Yu, who was in second place. However, a scene that she, the emissaries of light, and all the spectators did not expect happened. The 9 divine Dharma powers were terrifyingly hard, and they directly crushed the word block into pieces. Moreover, their momentum did not decrease, and they heavily struck Xian Yin's body. With a miserable cry, Xian Yin flew back to the emissaries of light with blood dripping from her mouth. Then, she fainted on the spot. Chapter 23-21. The entire place fell into absolute silence. Many people even wondered if they were hallucinating. Even someone as strong as Xian Yin had been knocked unconscious by the second-ranked disciple of the Nightless Palace. Chuyin had been completely defenseless. This scene was similar to when Chuyin had defeated Fong Wan with a single move. But this time, it was Chuyin's turn. The envoys of light were shocked, as were the people from the Nightless Palace. They were well aware of the princess's abilities. She had lost to Mr. Yao Yu many times in the past. How could she have knocked out the powerful Xian Yin in such a domineering manner? They suspected that Princess Qian Yu was secretly activating something, using some sort of trick. But under the watchful eyes of so many people, could she hide it from everyone? Obviously not. Even Princess Qianyue was dumbfounded, rooted to the ground. What was going on? She had already mentally prepared herself to be defeated by Xian Yin. How could Xian Yin be so weak? She even suspected that Xian Yin had purposely given up on her and admitted defeat. But looking at Xuan Yin's severe injuries, she gave up on that thought. She was at a loss, unable to understand what had happened. Only a few people knew what had happened. Mr. Yao Yu was one of them. He stared at Princess Qianyue in shock, his heart in turmoil. He knew that Princess Qianyue's true abilities were above his, but he had never expected that after 2 months, her abilities would have improved so much that it was unimaginable. At least, he was far inferior to her. Thinking of this, he admired Princess Qianyue's teacher from the bottom of his heart. Only an almighty master like the space domain could have taught Princess Qianyue to such an extent. Princess Qianyue gradually came to her senses, Su Yu's warning that if she did not come first, she would have to enter that space again. She became anxious. Next. Swoosh. Kong Chu crossed his arms in front of his chest, striding forward. "Let me do it." In terms of abilities, Kong Chu was much stronger than Xian Yin. Princess Qianyue could defeat Xian Yin, but she might not be able to defeat Kong Chu. "All right. Make your move quickly." Princess Qianyue looked like she was in a hurry. Kong Chu did not hesitate, displaying his domain and doctrine artifact. He attacked with all his might, bringing with him an oppressive aura. Everyone watching from afar could sense Kong Chu's extraordinary power. The princess was in danger. Several elders who were protecting the princess secretly made preparations. If anything went wrong, they would immediately take action. Princess Qian Yu was also anxious, but she braced herself and used her 9 gods' body to resist. The 9 Dharma idols attacked one after another. He had thought that the attack power of gods would be relatively weak, But the 9 gods seemed to be completely different from ordinary god incarnations. The divine arts he used were extremely powerful. Bang bang bang, in a few breaths of time, Kong Chu's domain and Tao artifact were destroyed on the spot. Kong Chu himself was forced to retreat, his entire body in pain. His pupils constricted and his face turned grave. On the other hand, Princess Qian Yu was perplexed. Could it be that her god incarnation had become more powerful? With this in mind, Princess Qian Yu took the initiative to fight Kong Chu. After 30 rounds, Kong Chu became more and more apprehensive. He was completely at a disadvantage. No matter how he resisted, he was unable to threaten Princess Qian Yu in the slightest. On the contrary, he himself was repeatedly attacked by the 9 Dharma idols, and his injuries were becoming more and more serious. I admit defeat. After fighting for a long time, Kong Chu decisively admitted defeat. Just like that, Princess Qian Yu won 2 rounds in a row. Moreover, the people she defeated were all experts of the light envoys. Princess Qian Yu was extremely excited. After exchanging blows again and again, she finally confirmed that her god incarnation was indeed much stronger than before. Could it be the result of Su Yu's training? Princess Qian Yu was unwilling to admit that it was Su Yu's doing. In her eyes, Su Yu could only threaten her. He was not a teacher at all. If that's the case, it's my turn. Xian Hua looked up at the sky above her head. She had many opportunities to fight with Su Yu, but she had never been able to do so. Now, she was going to fight with Su Yu's student. If she lost, she would no longer have the right to challenge Su Yu. All of a sudden, the crowd was filled with excitement. Xian Hua had finally made her move. None of the past members of the Nightless Palace had ever had a battle record that was close to the 2nd place of the Light Envoys. Now, it had been achieved by Princess Qian Yu, who had amazed the world with a single brilliant feat. However, it was difficult to say whether she could defeat Xian Hua. There were many rumors about Xian Hua. The most common rumor was that her abilities were not inferior to any of the past leaders of the Light Envoys. It was only because of the existence of the destined woman that she was ranked 2nd. Princess Qian Yu became nervous. As the saying went, a person's reputation was like a tree's shadow. Xian Hua had left an indelible impression on her. She had never thought that one day she would be able to stand in front of Xian Hua and fight with her. Hence, she was not very confident. "Make your move," Xian Hua said indifferently. Princess Qian Yu braced herself and displayed the 9 divine body again. Xian Hua had been observing the fight for a long time. She had already come up with a countermeasure. She drew a space vortex in the air, which devoured the attack of the 9 divine body. Xian Hua herself was unscathed. Seeing that her 9 divine body was useless against Xian Hua, Princess Qian Yu lost even more confidence. She was not confident enough, so she was defeated. She was not confident enough, so she was defeated again. Hence, she was forced into a passive position in the following fight. Although she had mastered the extremely powerful 9 divine body, she was easily suppressed by Xian Hua and was at an absolute disadvantage. In less than 20 rounds, Princess Qian Yu's divine Laksana was shaken. Princess Qian Yu, who was affected, groaned and was sent flying by Xian Hua. Princess Qian Yu screamed and was about to fall to the ground. Right at that moment, a figure appeared mysteriously. He caught Princess Qian Yu and placed her on the ground. Princess Qian Yu was still in a state of shock. She lowered her head in fear as she looked at the silver-haired figure in front of her. She was so scared that she was about to cry. She could already imagine that she would be thrown into that space, where she would be subjected to nightmarish training. I'm sorry," Princess Qian Yu cried pitifully. Su Yu did not turn around. He said calmly, "From today onwards, you are free. I won't care about you anymore." What did he mean? Princess Qian Yu said weakly, "Teacher, what are you talking about? I don't understand. What I mean is, from today onwards, I'm no longer your teacher. You can do whatever you want." Su Yu was very disappointed. Princess Chien Yu was probably the same as the saying, "Mud can't hold up a wall." She had an unparalleled advantage, but she was defeated because of her cowardice. If this was just her temperament, then why did she forget about the evil King Pearl? To ensure that nothing would go wrong, he did not hesitate to lend her the evil King Pearl.